Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new audiobook. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 41 Yinlongtan. This four-legged monster is in the middle stage of the Purple Mansion realm, but its strength is comparable to that of the ordinary late Purple Mansion realm. Even so, there are only 10 points. According to the normal situation, the higher the level of monsters, the higher the points. Yi Chubai raised his eyebrows slightly. If he wanted to advance, he might not be enough to kill monsters of this level. Take out the map. This map was given to him by Xinhong Yi. And the location where I am now is the outermost edge of the Qingyun mountain range. The deeper you go, the stronger the devilish energy. At the same time, the strength of Warcraft will become stronger. The monster inside is the start of Qi realm. And in the deepest part, there is a water overflow environment, as well as the powerful monsters above the water overflow environment. Reached above the water overflow, the spirit of the monster will be completely opened. Without even thinking about it, Yi Chubai sped towards the inside. Along the way, there are monsters everywhere. Killed those monsters with one sword, and the point stones also came to 230. At the same time, there are also some natural treasures. Of course, these so-called treasures of heaven and earth are not as good as 1/10,000th of the quality in Master's vegetable garden. Even if it is used for cooking, I am afraid it will be rejected by the Master. You know, his Master's mouth is stuck. Thinking of this, Yi Chubai couldn't help shaking his head and laughing, and continued to gallop towards the interior. Suddenly, Yi Chubai stopped. There are strands of aura surrounding him in these four directions. Hooray! Oh! Finally a guest. Suddenly, a man in a red robe came out from the side. Yi Chubai looked over lightly. It's just that this fish doesn't seem too fat, a barbarian from the southern region. How about this? You hand over the point stone in your hand, and I will let you go, how about it? The three of them, Yi Chubai, met once outside, and they seemed to be from the Tibetan Taoist Academy in the eastern region. According to Ding Lun's cognition, except for the leader of the team, the strength of the southern region Tibetan Taoist Academy is much behind the others. So, in the case of being trapped by the formation, the opponent is definitely not your opponent. Fish is small, but it is also meat. Yi Chubai looked at Ding Lun, and said with a half smile, "That's why you're so sure you can eat me." Hearing this, Ding Lun sneered. Why, even a person at the peak of the Purple Mansion can be trapped in my predicament. Do you think you can escape from being trapped in my trap? Quote. Run. Why run? Yi Chubai took out the wooden sword, and under Ding Lun's mocking gaze, he swung it out. The wooden sword landed on the formation barrier. Boom. Just a moment. The formation shattered instantly. The array flags scattered all over the place were directly reduced to dust. Looking at this scene, Ding Lun's eyes were terrified. Under his observation, the other party was just a southern barbarian in the middle stage of Zifu realm. How strong can it be? But, now this southern barbarian whom he looked down upon cut through the formation he was so proud of with a single sword. This formation, even a person at the peak of the Zifu realm, cannot break it in one blow. How could Yi Chubai break through with a single sword? Ding Lun was full of doubts and fears. How did you do it? Yi Chubai didn't answer his question, put a sword on Ding Lun's forehead, and said, hand over the point stone. Ding Lun's throat rolled, and he said, I exchange a message for point stones, is that okay? After all, if the point stone is captured, it will be eliminated. Yi Chubai raised his eyebrows slightly, and said, then it depends on whether your news is worth it. Hearing that there is still a chance, Ding Lun hurriedly said, in front, there is a Yinlong pool, and in the Yinlong pool, there is a half-step Yinlong overflowing with water. It is not a simple existence that can be related to the word Longzi. Although Yinlong has a trace of dragon blood, he still has the opportunity to transform into a dragon. It's just that the chances are slim. Because of this, Yinlong's blood can be used to refine medicine, and it can also be used to refine body. Is extremely valuable. Besides that Yinlong, there is also a Yinguduo guarding it. Yinguduo is also a product for refining elixir, which can be encountered but not sought. Although Yi Chubai is not interested in these. Asked, since you know everything, don't others know? Ding Lun saw that he was exposed, scratched his head in embarrassment, and said, some people have already passed, such as my brother Shi Sheng from the eastern region, Liao Meisheng from the northern region, and Yunanban, people from the southern region. Yi Chubai nodded upon hearing this. Although he is not interested in these things, Yinlong is a half-step water overflowing existence. If he is killed, he will probably get a lot of points. Can you let me go? Yi Chubai looked at Ding Lun and said, take out the scoring stone. Ding Lun's eyes froze. Didn't you say you would let me go if you gave me the news? But your news is not secret, so many people know it. Yi Chubai said coldly. So, do you take it out yourself or let me do it? Ding Lun looked at Yi Chubai's unwavering, stagnant eyes, and couldn't help trembling, and took the point stone out of the ring. Yi Chubai took it, and there are 470 points on this point stone. Obviously, Ding Lun has gained quite a lot. The point stone was taken away, and Ding Lun was also teleported away from Qingyun Mountain. Also means that Ding Lun is eliminated. Yi Chubai didn't stop, and flew directly in the direction Ding Lun pointed. At a mountainside. There is a waterfall pouring down here. Beside the waterfall, there is a hole. Before the entrance of the cave, there is a pool of water. This pool of water is full of yin qi, so that there is no grass or tree around. Here is Yinlongtan. Around Yinlongtan, there are already several people here. Among them, Xin Hongyi from the southern region was included. Among them was an extremely tall man with his arms folded and said, everyone, since this Yinlong lake has been discovered, how about we join hands? Xin Hongyi looked over coldly, and said, Shi Sheng, you really are shameless. I was the first to discover this place, but you said to join forces. Shi Sheng looked at Xin Hongyi, with a look of fire in his eyes, and said, Xin Hongyi, do you think you can eat this Yinlong lake by yourself? Xin Hongyi's tone froze. With her current strength, let alone whether she can deal with the group of people around her. Shi Sheng's strength is higher than hers. What's more, there is a Yinlong that is half a step overflowing in the Yinlongtan hidden in this Yinlongtan. Xin Hongyi couldn't solve it at all. Shi Sheng saw that Xin Hongyi's face was ugly and did not respond. He sneered and said, Xin Hongyi, you have to be clear, you are the only one here in the southern region, and it would be great to give you a chance to cooperate. Liao Meisheng also looked at this scene jokingly, and then said, I agree to cooperate, this Yinlong is not easy to deal with. Shi Sheng nodded, and said, okay, let's distribute it. I want the Yin dragon blood. Liao Meisheng was not surprised. After all, Shi Sheng was a body refiner, and Yinlong's blood was a good thing for him. Then I want the pubis. As for the remaining points, let's distribute them to others. Xin Hongyi, if you contribute at that time, the points will also be shared with you. Obviously, they didn't intend to distribute the things to Xin Hongyi. Chapter 42 Yinlong out. In the southern region, there is only Xin Hongyi. Moreover, in this, her strength can only compete with Liao Meisheng. Also not Shi Sheng's opponent. This also led to Xin Hongyi being unable to get more things. Xin Hongyi naturally understood this. It's just that she alone can't change anything. He could only stare blankly. At this time, a figure galloped from the jungle behind. Xin Hongyi turned her head, immediately changed her previous sad expression, and said happily, Yi Chubai. The person who came was Yi Chubai. Liao Meisheng looked over, with murderous intent in his eyes. Shi Sheng also glanced over and said, oh. People from the southern region. Yi Chubai didn't look at the two of them, but looked at Xin Hongyi, and said, where's Yinlong? Xin Hongyi shook his head and said, the Yinlong hasn't come out yet, Shi Sheng and the others have already set up a formation, draw it out, and then attack and kill it with all their strength. Yi Chubai nodded slightly. Shi Sheng looked over, and said loudly, people from the southern region, right? Do you want a share too? Yi Chubai looked at Shi Sheng and said, a share. I only want points. Points. Shi Sheng was also taken aback. In his opinion, Yin dragon blood and the Yin guduo are more important than points. Points can be seized. But Yinlongshe and Yinguduo are things that can be encountered but not sought after. Are you sure you only need points? Xin Hongyi also hurriedly said from the side, Yi Chubai, the other two are more valuable. These two things are extremely rare even among the secret tribe she belongs to. It's just that she doesn't know. Yi Chubai's body had already been refined by the pure Yang Qishui pill refined by his master. Using the yin dragon blood again has no effect at all. As for the pubis master's vegetable garden is much more advanced than this one. Even if you use it for cooking, you will dislike it. Why do you want to come here? Thinking of this, Yi Chubai shook his head and said, I only need points, but what I need are all points. All. Liao Meisheng narrowed his eyes slightly and said, you have a big appetite. There are so many people here, what can they get? Yi Chubai shook his head and said, what does it have to do with me? Liao Meisheng wanted to say something else, but Shi Sheng stopped him and jokingly said, it's okay, I'll give you all the points. I will give other juniors compensation for them. However, if you do not show the corresponding strength, I am afraid that some people will not accept you if you get all the points. While saying these words, Shi Sheng and Liao Meisheng looked at each other. They all seemed to understand the other party's intentions, but they didn't say anything. Okay, everyone, get ready. When the formation is activated, Yinlong will appear. After finishing speaking, Shi Sheng and all the disciples of the eastern region are seals. The formation flags scattered around began to emit a faint halo. Above the Yinlongtan, a force of suppression began to be continuously generated, pressing into the pool. Liao Meisheng took out his long sword, and waves of sword energy surrounded him, ready to strike at any time. Xin Hongyi stopped persuading her, but also took out her long sword, and flames wrapped around the blade. Yi Chubai now replaced the wooden sword with a dark demon. After all, the opponent is half-stepped, and there is a big gap with his realm. Puff puff puff. As the force of repression continues to strengthen, the water in Yinlongtan is also boiling like water. Sudden. A strange roar sounded suddenly. The weaker people around took a step back. Even Xin Hongyi had to treat it seriously. Yi Chubai held the sword in both hands, and the robe on his body was constantly blown by the wind, watching this scene lightly. Boom. The pool water exploded. A huge strange beast broke out of its shell from the pool of water. The strange beast has a snake body and a triangular crown. A pair of eyes were full of anger, and he yelled at everyone. Shi Sheng said solemnly at this moment, Sleepy Dragon Formation, get up. With the infusion of aura, the suppressive power in the formation is like Mount Tai pressing down on the top, pressing down on the Yinlong with a bang. Yinlong's body was suddenly bent down. Shi Sheng roared, now is the time. As soon as the voice fell, everyone attacked Yinlong. With a wave of Liao Mei's long sword, 3 sword beams cut towards the Yinlong at the same time. Xin Hongyi swung out that long sword covered in flames. The flame is like a fire whip, flinging towards Yinlong. All of a sudden, one attack after another fell on Yinlong. However, those attacks only landed on the scales, leaving no traces. Shi Sheng snorted coldly, handed over the formation to others, and shot directly at Yinlong. There seems to be no aura fluctuations. Punch at Yinlong's crown. Boom. The fist hit the crown of the head, and the head of the Yinlong smashed towards the water in an instant. Yinlong also let out a cry of pain. There are streaks of black blood flowing from the crown. This is the first time Yinlong has been hurt. Liao Meisheng watched this scene with fixed eyes. Shi Sheng's natural power is really terrifying. People from the Eastern Territory are also cheering. As expected of senior brother Shi. With brother Shi's strength, why do you need to cooperate with other people? That's right, look at other people's attacks. Falling on Yinlong's body is like scratching an itch. Nothing happened at all. Senior brother Shi wounded this beast with one punch. Shi Sheng returned to the original place, looked at the crowd, frowned and said, everyone, don't hide your strength, go all out. Obviously, Shi Sheng was dissatisfied with the attack of Liao Meisheng and others just now. There is also Yi Chubai, why don't you take action? Liao Meisheng and the others all looked at Yi Chubai who held his sword in both hands. We are all working hard, but you are the only one paddling. Yi Chubai said indifferently, I want to wait for you to make a move before making a move. If you make a move together, if it is my credit, some people will also say that it is someone else's credit. Xin Hongyi couldn't help laughing. Liao Meisheng and the people from the Eastern Territory looked even more ugly. Shi Sheng frowned slightly, and said, we are all from the academy, how can we be so dirty? Yi Chubai shrugged his shoulders, and stopped talking, holding the dark demon in his hand. The monstrous demon energy began to erupt from Yi Chubai's body. At this time, the Yinlong in the Yinlongtan got up again and roared. Half-step Shui Yi's breath erupted wantonly. The trapped dragon formation was shattered in just an instant. Sheng was not surprised by this. After all, the trapped dragon formation can only be trapped for a while. Then he said, "Back off and reorganize the attack." Everyone retreated towards the rear. However, there was one person who walked towards Yinlong. "It's Yi Chubai." Sheng shouted in a deep voice. "Yi Chubai, come back quickly." Yinlong broke through the suppression of the trapped dragon formation at this moment, and recovered his strength. How can a person in the middle of the Purple Mansion realm be able to fight against it? Liao Meisheng sneered. "Since you want to die, let him go." Xin Hongyi watched this scene without any worries. She knew Yi Chubai well. How could he do something he was not sure about? P.S. How about the entire book friend group? Penguin. 735,665,142. Chapter 43 Slaying the Yin Dragon Alone. Yin Dragon is constantly exuding breath at this moment. The yin energy spread to the surroundings, and the flowers and plants in the distance seemed to be affected and quickly withered. On the crown dripping with black blood, two slanted eyes stared at Yi Chubai, eyes full of anger, and even more sarcasm. How could a person from the little purple mansion be its opponent? Yi Chubai held a dark demon in his hand. For a moment, the demonic energy was overwhelming. Facing the half-step water overflow, Yi Chubai did not back down. He wanted to see, with his current strength, whether he could seriously injure or kill Yinlong. The dark demon was raised in his hand, and the jet-black sword was covered with wisps of magic energy. For a moment, Yi Chubai descended like a demon god. Immediately, with slight footsteps, he rushed towards the Yinlong. Seeing this, Yinlong roared at Yi Chubai. The roar seemed to turn into sound waves, squeezed the space, and pressed towards Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai's face froze slightly, and the dark magic in his hand swung out. Heavenly Demon 9 Swords, the first sword. One side bursts of sound waves, and the other side bursts with black sword energy. Crash with a bang. Those sound waves were chopped off by the black sword energy. Yinlong's eyes showed surprise. As far as the strength of this sound wave is concerned, people in the Zifu realm must not be able to resist it. But Yi Chubai killed it with a single strike. Just when I thought so. Yi Chubai's figure has come in front of Yinlong. The second sword is swung. The magic energy skyrocketed again. The wanton sword energy crisscrossed the world, constantly sweeping across the scales of Yinlong. Yin Dragon swung its giant tail and drew towards Yi Chubai. Liao Meisheng sneered at the side. How can Yi Chubai resist this blow? Sheng watched this scene without speaking. He could see that Yi Chubai was not such a reckless person. This blow from the giant tail, even if it was him, he had to protect it with all his strength to ensure that he would not be seriously injured. And why did Yi Chubai? The physical body is not strong enough. The realm is not high enough. Could it be that there are other cards? However, the scene at the next moment shocked everyone. Yi Chubai slashed at the tail of the snake with his sword. He was not seriously injured and flew out as everyone thought. On the contrary, the scales of the snake tail were about to shatter. Yinlong roared in pain. Yi Chubai stepped back. Half-step Shui Yi's strength is really strong. Xin Hongyi on the side breathed a sigh of relief. But at the same time, he secretly said in his heart that he must work harder to practice after returning home. After all, the current Yi Chubai has gone further and further away. If this continues, I'm afraid I won't even be able to see Yi Chubai's back. Liao Meisheng's face was ugly. Yi Chubai's current strength is stronger than when he confronted him at the banquet before. Sheng was even more surprised. The ability to achieve this level with the sword alone shows how deep his swordsmanship is. I just don't know how it compares to Jian Chaomian. Thinking of this, Sheng couldn't help shaking his head, and murmured softly, Jian Chaomian is still better. At this moment, Yinlong was completely furious. Roared, breath burst. Immediately, he escaped from the Yinlongtan and slammed fiercely at Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai's eyes were fixed, and he didn't dodge. Go forward. The dark demon in the hand suddenly cut out. The fifth sword of the heavenly demon 9 swords. The demon energy in Qingyun mountain range is extremely strong, and it is even stronger in the Yinlongtan area. This also led to Yi Chubai being able to cut out this sword. This sword comes out. The devilish energy nearby seemed to be summoned, rushing towards the dark demon's sword. For a while, the devilish energy surged wildly. Feel the power. Liao Meisheng and Shi Sheng's expressions changed. Under this sword, Shi Sheng asked himself, can he take it? The answer is no. I am afraid that even if you accept it, you will have to pay a huge price. This price is unbearable for him. Yin Long's eyes froze as he rushed towards Yi Chubai. This sword actually made him feel in danger. An ant in the small purple mansion can make him feel a sense of crisis. What a humiliation. With a roar, the speed skyrocketed again. Yi Chubai came face to face. The sword covered with monstrous devilish energy slashed towards the crown of Yinlong's head. Just a moment. Both intersect. Yinlong roared, and the crown began to shatter at this moment. Black blood spurted out. Yi Chubai let out a muffled snort. The opponent's strength was extremely great. The realm is so much higher than that, such a head-on encounter, naturally it will not be unscathed. Yinlong retreated violently at this moment. Returned to Yinlongtan. Yi Chubai snorted coldly, and stomped on the ground. The ground instantly shattered. Yi Chubai also used this to rush towards Yinlong. Reaching out and slashing, the sword energy shot towards the Yinlong. The scales on Yinlong's body kept breaking at this moment. Roar. Under the terrified eyes of everyone. The long sword in Yi Chubai's hand slammed down. A sword cut into Yinlong's head. At this moment, the breath of Yinlong passed away quickly until it disappeared. Yi Chubai, in the middle stage of the Zifu realm, killed the Yinlong who was half a step away from the water overflow realm by himself. How is this possible? Some people can't believe it. Is he really from the Purple Mansion? When did the southern barbarians have such a character? Liao Meisheng's face was ugly. At that banquet, I tried my best, but now it seems that Yi Chubai didn't try my best. Once he used this trick at that time, it is estimated that he would not have any power to parry. Watching this scene, Shi Sheng felt a storm in his heart. He can barely compete with Yinlong. However, if he wants to beheaded, then Shi Sheng asked himself that he couldn't do it. After all, half-step Shui Yijing has a trace of dragon blood. This kind of monster can be ranked high even in the Qingyun mountain range. As a person at the early stage of Qixi realm, how could he kill him? But Yi Chubai did it. And achieved this with the cultivation base in the middle stage of Zifu realm. Fully crossed a big realm. Thinking of this, Shi Sheng's previous thoughts have completely disappeared. At this moment, Xin Hongyi walked up to Yi Chubai and asked, how are you doing, are you okay? Yi Chubai turned slightly pale, shook his head and said, it's not a big problem, it's just that the consumption is too much, just take a pill. Xin Hongyi. How can there be so many high-level pills here, it feels like eating jelly beans. Not to mention, even I don't have this elixir. Could it be that it was refined by Senior Liu? If it was put in the past, Yi Chubai might be reluctant to use it up like this. After all, this elixir for restoring aura would be looted if left outside. The grade and quality are extremely high. However, since the master said to himself, save. Why save? It's not enough to go to my place, and there is another furnace. Since that day, Yi Chubai will never save money when using pills. Chapter 44. It's useless to give you a chance. At this time, Shi Sheng walked over from the side. I saw him laugh loudly and said, Brother Yi, you are hiding something. Yi Chubai glanced at the past and ignored it. This made Shi Sheng stagnate, but he still said, don't worry, Brother Yi, everything here is yours, whether it is this Yin Dragon blood or Yin Guduo. This made Xin Hongyi stunned. Originally, Shi Sheng wanted the blood of Yin Dragon to temper his body. Now, let it go like this. But it's normal to think about it. After all, Yi Chubai's strength, I'm afraid even Shi Sheng knows consciously that he can't compete with it. Simply, just give up the Yin Dragon blood, and restore Yi Chubai's favor. At this time, Liao Meisheng said angrily, Shi Sheng, we also did our best. If we hadn't discovered this place and used the enchantment to draw the Yinlong out, how could he kill the Yinlong? Xin Hongyi on the side heard the words and scolded angrily, are you still shameless? It's not Yi Chubai, you have the ability to kill Yinlong. Liao Meisheng flicked out a cold finger, and a finger-strengthening sword shot towards Xin Hongyi. Xin Hongyi didn't expect that he would shoot directly, and there was no reaction for a while. I had to watch helplessly as the Daoji Jinhua sword pierced through. Once it falls on Xin Hongyi, it is estimated that if she does not die, she will be seriously injured. At this time, Yi Chubai stepped out with one step, and also pointed out with one finger. Stop the finger-strengthening sword. Have you passed? Liao Meisheng sneered and said, she's a barbarian, so if she doesn't have the strength, she will be beaten. Xin Hongyi was about to step forward, but was stopped by Yi Chubai. I just heard Yi Chubai say coldly, don't you just want Yanguduo? I'll give it to you. Hearing this, everyone present was taken aback. Xin Hongyi was even more anxious. Why did you give him Yanguduo? Even if it's useless and sell it, you can get a lot of resources. Yi Chubai ignored it, but walked to the side of the Yinlong Lake on his own. In the center, there was a piece of soil floating. Above the soil, there is a bone flower that has not bloomed. Jiuyou Duo is surrounded by endless yin qi. This is the pubis. People from the outside world all use it as medicine, to set up formations, or, to refine corpses. Its value is self-evident. Yi Chubai stretched out his hand and took out the pubic bone. Immediately, under the astonished eyes of everyone, he threw the yin guduo to Liao Meisheng. Liao Meisheng seemed a little unbelievable, and said, you really gave it to me. Yi Chubai nodded. Liao Meisheng was about to say something more, but found that Yi Chubai had already slashed over with a sword. Liao Meisheng's face changed in shock, and he immediately backed away, narrowly avoiding the vital point, but the hand holding Yin Guduo was also chopped off. Yi Chubai walked forward, and took the Yin Guduo back into his hand. What are you doing? Yi Chubai put away Yin Guduo, looked at Liao Meisheng who was full of fright and anger, and said indifferently, as you can see, there is nothing wrong with killing people for profit, right? Liao Meisheng. Shi Sheng. Liao Meisheng's face was ashen, and he covered the place where his broken arm was, and said, are you really going to do everything right? Yi Chubai did not answer. In his heart, since Liao Meisheng has a relationship with the Sunset Dynasty, there is no such thing as whether to do it or not. Ben is the enemy of life and death. Either you die or I die. Liao Meisheng saw that Yi Chubai had no intention of letting go of himself at all, and couldn't help shouting, you are not allowed to kill people during communication. You violated the regulations by doing this, and you will be punished by the academy at that time. So what? People live for a lifetime, so why worry about this and fear that? He is a swordsman. If he thinks too much about things, he will lose the purity of a swordsman. Will lose that spirit. That's not far away. Thinking of this, Yi Chubai **** violently. The long sword in his hand suddenly cut out. Directly resorted to the demonic 9 swords. He didn't intend to give Liao Meisheng any chance to resist. Seeing the sword coming, Liao Meisheng's face changed in shock. Under this sword, he has no chance to resist. If it is hard-wired, it will definitely not be able to catch it. As for running away, the gas machine has been locked long ago, so how could it escape? Thinking of this, Liao Meisheng gritted his teeth, took out the scoring stone from his bosom, and threw it at Yi Chubai. Suddenly, Liao Meisheng's body disappeared in place and was teleported out. Leave something blank. Yi Chubai, if you don't avenge this revenge, you will never be a human being. Yi Chubai didn't care about this, put away his sword, and absorbed Liao Meisheng's point stone. Yinlong's points are 1000, while Liao Meisheng has 400 point stones. Add Yi Chubai's original 470 points up to 1870. Xin Hongyi stepped forward and said, I thought you would really give it to him. Yi Chubai shook his head and said, it's not for him, it's just that I can't grasp it. Shi Sheng also stepped forward at this moment, and said with a smile, Brother Yi, do you want to use the Yin Dragon blood yourself or sell it when you go out? Hearing this, Yi Chubai looked at Shi Sheng, and said, this thing is useless to me, I don't need it if I sell it. Ellipse, once refined by the master, it is a furnace. Weapons, with a dark demon and Qingyun sword in his hand. Gongfa in martial arts, there are the 9 swords of heavenly demon and the sword sutra of absolute beginning given by the master. There is nothing missing at all. Hearing these words, Shi Sheng was overjoyed, and said, since that's the case, why don't you sell it to me? I will not only give you a satisfactory price, Brother Yi, but also owe you a favor. Many people would rather spend a lot of money to buy something. After all, the things that can be solved with money are the simplest. But human feelings are different. The most difficult debt in the world is the debt of favor. The disciples of the Eastern Region Academy next to them were also shocked when they heard this. Brother Shi actually paid such a price. You know, senior brother Shi seldom asks other people on weekdays, in order not to owe favors. It can be seen how important this yin dragon blood is to him. Yi Chubai probably will gladly give the yin dragon blood to senior brother Shi. But who would have known that this was just finished? Yi Chubai shook his head and said, I don't need anything. As for your favor, I don't even need it. After finishing speaking, he walked to Yinlong's corpse, extracted the blood essence, and threw it to Xinhongyi casually. Shi Sheng's expression froze, rather ugly. Immediately snorted coldly, said, since that's the case, then she will not bother, let's go. Leaving this place with the people of the eastern region. Xinhongyi smiled and said, Shi Sheng's talent is extremely high, are you wasting it like this? Yi Chubai shrugged his shoulders and said, what's the use of his favors? They can't beat me. 2. Xinhongyi looked at the yin dragon blood in his eyes, and said, this yin dragon blood is extremely precious, and it is extremely important for body training. Are you really giving it to me like this? I don't need it. After finishing speaking, Yi Chubai said, okay, I will protect the law for you, you absorb it quickly, and then go to earn some points. For Yi Chubai, this kind of thing is useless to him, so give it away if you give it away. What's more, Xinhongyi is her own. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 45 The Sunset Dynasty is here. After one day, Xinhongyi successfully broke through to the late stage of Zifu realm. At the same time, even the physical body has become much stronger. This made Xinhongyi look happy, patted Yi Chubai on the shoulder, and said with a smile, I owe you a favor. Xinhongyi is a member of the secret tribe in the southern region, and this favor is no less valuable than Shi Sheng. It's just that Yi Chubai didn't care, and said, okay, time is running out, let's go deeper and get some points. Xinhongyi nodded. In the next time, Yi Chubai and Xinhongyi kept hunting monsters. Points also rose very fast. During the process, Yi Chubai also successfully broke through to the late stage of Zifu realm. At the same time, with the help of the magic energy contained in the Qingyun mountain range, the understanding of the heavenly demon Nine Swords is also deeper. At the end, Yi Chubai's points reached 4,700. Xinhongyi's points also reached 2,200. Everyone was teleported out and returned to the Beiyou Tibetan Taoist Academy. Arrived in the square, Huo Qingming and Lin Ce walked over. Huo Qingming asked curiously, Yi Chubai, how many points do you have? The tone was smug. Lin Ce rolled his eyes and said, Huo Qingming accidentally encountered a dying Qihai realm peak monster, plus others, he has 2,100 points. This is to show off. Huo Qingming chuckled, after all, he is not Yi Chubai's opponent, and he would be very satisfied if he can beat him in other places. Xinhongyi looked at Lin Ce and asked, what about you? Lin Ce spread his hands and said, 1,800. At this time, Huang Yuan and the others also came over. Just as they were about to ask questions, an elder stepped forward and said, everyone, please hand in your point stones. There will be a ranking here, and some people will be eliminated. Hearing this, everyone handed in the scoring stones. Wang Yuan asked, it should be all right. When he said this, Huang Yuan mainly looked at Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai shrugged, but did not speak. Xinhongyi nodded. Huo Qingming said, it's not a big problem. Soon, the elders also calculated the ranking. Began to announce the results, with some surprise in his eyes, he said, Beiyou Tibetan Taoist Academy, one person will be eliminated, and the first place in points will be Jian Chaomian, with 4,500 points. As soon as the result came out, everyone couldn't help but burst out in an uproar. 4,500. You must know that a monster in the middle stage of the Purple Mansion realm only has 10 points, and it reaches the peak of the Purple Mansion realm, but only 30 points. 4,500 points, how many were killed, or how many higher level monsters were killed? With the strength of the sword, it must be possible. After all, he is the #1 sword repairer of the younger generation in the Northern Territory. Should no one be able to surpass the score of Jian Chaomian? Surely no one can surpass. I heard from my fellow disciples that Brother Jian seems to have killed 3 mid-Qi sea-level monsters and 1 late-Qi sea-level monster alone. Brother Jian seems to be only in the mid-stage Qi sea realm, right? What's more, a monster in the mid-stage Qi sea realm can be equivalent to a strong man in the late Qi sea realm. As expected of being called the number 1 swordsman of the younger generation. Countless people looked at Jian Chaomian with awe. The wilderness is also dignified. Zhongwu said from the side, he is a strong enemy. Huang Yuan nodded, if I face him, I guess I only have a 30% chance of winning. Next, the elder announced again. Eastern Territory, 1 person is eliminated, and Changsheng ranks first in points, with a total of 3,900 points. 3,900 points. Although it is not as good as Jian Chaomian's score, it is still a very high score. The leader of the Eastern Territory also smiled. This result has also exceeded his expectations. However, Changsheng didn't smile, instead his face was solemn, no one knew what he was thinking. Western Region, 1 person is eliminated, Zhonghe ranks first in points, with a total of 3,860 points. There is not much difference from Changsheng. It can be said that it is extremely close. Is also an extremely brilliant result. Now, everyone's eyes are on the southern region. Among them, the one with the highest score should be the wasteland, right? Hey, it is estimated that Wang Yuan is the only person in the southern region who can handle it. After all, he is the apprentice of the headmaster of the southern region. However, compared to Jian Chaomian, Changsheng and others, it is probably a little worse. The voice fell. The voice of the elder announcing the result also came over. Southern region, 2 people eliminated, first in points. Yi Chubai, 4,700 points. Suddenly, Huang Yuan and the others looked at Yi Chubai with disbelief. Someone also asked, who is this Yi Chubai? Jian Chaomian also reacted, turned his head and looked at Yi Chubai, his eyes showed fighting intent. Changsheng looked complicated. Zhonghe still had a smile on his face, not knowing what he was thinking. 4,700 points. 200 points higher than Jian Chaomian. How did he do it? This person doesn't look like a purple mansion, how could he reach 4,700 points? Could it be a mistake? In the eyes of everyone, it is impossible for Yi Chubai to reach this score. But Yi Chubai didn't care too much. What does other people's opinions have to do with him? Wang Yuan looked at Yi Chubai with a complicated expression, and said, good job. Huo Qingming also smiled wryly. I thought I could surpass you this time, but I didn't expect you to surpass me by so much. Lin Ce also said helplessly, this guy is a guy who cannot be judged by common sense. Huo Qingming was happy, that's right, but I didn't expect that the 2 of us would be eliminated just like that. That's right, the 2 eliminated from southern region are Huo Qingming and Lin Ce. On the other hand, the elder Wu Tang also came over, patted Yi Chubai, and said with a smile, good boy, you have done a good job, this time you have won honor for our southern region Tibetan Taoist Academy. Elder Confucianism also smiled and said, the next competition will continue, and our goal this time must be in the top 2. Yi Chubai nodded. In front, the elder of the Northern Territory Tibetan Taoist Academy said, okay, let's move on to the next game. The 4 Territory Tibetan Taoist Academy, the players can be assigned by themselves to exchange martial arts. In the end, whichever side has more winners left wins. Quote. Waved his hand, and a box appeared in front of the elder. The elder randomly draws 2 lots. In the first game, the eastern region is facing the southern region. The 2 sides can discuss how to send people to fight. The voice fell. Wood Shi, the dean of the Beiyu Tibetan Taoist Academy, came to the sky and waved his palm. Suddenly, in the very center of the square, a competition platform rose from the ground. In front of the competition stage, there are 10 seats. Wood sat down with the other deans of the 3 domains. After a while, several figures in the sky came stepping forward. Sits on other seats. But this time, Wood did not sit in the first place was still vacant, and there was also an vacant seat next to the first place. This made everyone puzzled. Who is it, whose status is higher than that of Wood? Suddenly, in the sky, there are 2 roars of dragons. A huge ship appeared in the sight of everyone, and in front of the ship, there were 2 golden armored dragons pulling the ship forward. Is the ship of the Sunset Dynasty? Chapter 46 is already a stranger. Sunset Dynasty. His position in the Northern Territory can be described as the hegemonic level. Even Tibetan Taoist Academy is not as good. Of course, this is also the result of Tibetan Taoist Academy's unwillingness to fight. After all, the headquarters of the Tibetan Taoist Academy is a giant. Everyone looked up and looked at the ship pulled by the two golden armored dragons, and couldn't help but marvel. The big man from the Sunset Dynasty is here. But I don't know who was able to get the dean to give up his seat, and he still gave up 2 seats. No one would think that the head of the Sunset Dynasty would come in person. After all, it is just an exchange between colleges, and for the Lord of the Sunset, this is not a big deal. In other words, a competition of this scale is not worthy of the Lord Sunset coming in person. Then who is here? Yi Chubai also looked up, his eyes slightly focused. Zhaolong pulls the boat, which shows its profound heritage. However, why do you feel that these 2 dragons are not as good as the little bird raised by Master? At this time, the ship slowly stayed in the sky above. At the rear of the ship, there are countless figures in heavy armor, holding spears, and riding war horses standing around. Everyone has the cultivation base of Zifu realm. Just standing there, these figures were swept away by a murderous intent. Like Shura. The leader of the team is the general. Someone exclaimed, it's Shura cavalry. Shura Iron Cavalry, the strongest army in the Sunset Dynasty. Who the hell? Soon, under the curious and awe-inspiring eyes of everyone, 2 figures slowly descended from the ship. The man is dressed in a luxurious brocade robe, which looks extremely dignified. Women dressed in plain snow silk skirts look elegant and noble. When everyone saw the 2, they couldn't help exclaiming, it's the eldest prince. Why did His Royal Highness come here in person? You know, the first prince is the next ruler of the Sunset Dynasty. The one next to him should be the future queen. I've heard that she looks like a fish and a wild goose, but seeing her now, it's as expected. Everyone in the southern region looked at Yi Chubai at this time. After all, they too had heard of something. I saw that now. Yi Chubai looked at the man and woman above, with no yearning or nostalgia in his eyes. Some are just indifferent. Cold to the extreme. And those who are familiar with Yi Chubai know that Yi Chubai has already moved to kill at this moment. That's right, the woman above is Zhang Chan. What Yi Chubai said. Today's Zhang Chan is no longer the childhood sweetheart who always followed behind him and shouted, Brother Chubai, in everything he did. Now, Zhang Chan is just a passerby for him. Zhang Chan, who was in midair, seemed to feel it, and also looked at Yi Chubai. There was surprise in his eyes, but when he saw the calmness and indifference in Yi Chubai's eyes, he felt sad again. Huang Tianming seemed to sense Zhang Chan's emotions, and held her hand. Naturally, he had already discovered Yi Chubai's location. Below, Xin Hongyi looked at Yi Chubai, and comforted her, Yi Chubai, with your current talent and strength, she will regret her choice at that time. Hearing this, Yi Chubai shrugged with a smile. He doesn't care about it now. He is now. It's just a life and death enmity with the Sunset Dynasty. That's all. At that time, Yi Chubai said it. In the future, hold the sword and set foot on the Sunset Dynasty. Seeing this, Huo Qingming and Lin Ce couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. There are only 3 players on their side. Once Yi Chubai loses energy, it will really be over. At this time, Huang Tianming led Zhang Chan to the seat, clasped his fists at Wood and said, I've seen the dean. Wood is a senior after all, and he is also a high-ranking figure in the 4 regions martial arts list, and he is also the dean of the Tibetan Taoist Academy that has the support of countless forces. Huang Tianming naturally had to behave like a junior. Wood nodded with a smile, and said, Tianming, sit down. Hearing this, Huang Tianming sat down with Zhang Chan. After everyone arrived, the elder received Wood's instruction, and said loudly, now, the second round of communication begins, and both sides send one person to fight. This match is a contest between the Southern Territory and the Eastern Territory. On the side of the Eastern region, a not-so-famous person stood up. However, its revealed strength has also reached the late stage of Zifu realm. Huang Yuan looked at Xin Hongyi and Yi Chubai, and said, Yi Chubai, take a rest for now, let Xin Hongyi go. Obviously, Huang Yuan was concerned about whether Yi Chubai's emotions would be affected. Yi Chubai didn't care about this. There is no rebuttal either. Seeing this, Xin Hongyi took the stage with a sword. Seeing this, the man on the other side sneered and said, "It really is the land of the southern barbarians, and there are only 3 people left in the second round. Looking back at the eastern region, there are still 4 people left. Why don't you just surrender? Anyway, every exchange between the 4 domains academy is the bottom of the ranking, so it's not a shame." Xin Hongyi held a sword in one hand, looked at the man coldly, and said, "There's so much nonsense." As soon as the voice fell, the sword was entwined with flames. The other party also snorted coldly, took out a double-sided axe, and immediately rushed towards Xin Hongyi. Xin Hongyi was not afraid at all, and also went forward to meet her. On the side of the eastern region, someone looked at Shi Sheng and said, "Senior brother Shi, we are lucky. In the first round, we met the last one in the southern region. Hehe, there are only 3 people left in this group of southern barbarians. I guess we can just use 3 people at will." Shi Sheng listened, but he didn't relax in the slightest. Instead, his eyes were filled with seriousness, and he said, "You guys must not be careless when you go up to the meeting. This time, the southern territory may not be so easy to swallow." Speaking of this, Shi Sheng remembered the scene where Yi Chubai killed Yinlong alone. Secretly said, "I'm afraid, this time the southern region will surprise everyone." On the other side, Huo Qingming asked from below, "Do you think Xin Hongyi can win?" Lin Ce shook his head and said, "The 2 are in the same realm, and there should be no winner for a while. The wasteland thinks so too." At this moment, Zhongwu looked at Yi Chubai and asked, "Brother Yi, what do you think?" Yi Chubai shook his head and proposed a different idea. "Xin Hongyi is sure to win." Huo Qingming said in amazement, "Both of them are in the same realm, and their strength seems to be about the same. How could they possibly win?" Huang Yuan was also quite puzzled, looked at Yi Chubai, and waited for his explanation. Yi Chubai didn't say anything more. If it is said that Xin Hongyi broke through to the late stage of the Purple Mansion realm normally, then it is hard to say. However, Xin Hongyi used Yin Dragon blood to quench her body before. The strength is naturally much stronger than that of the general Purple Mansion realm late stage. Soon, the scene in front of him confirmed Yi Chubai's statement. Within just 20 moves, the winner was decided. Xin Hongyi defeated the opponent with overwhelming momentum. Huo Qingming couldn't help but asked in surprise, "Is Xin Hongyi so strong?" Huang Yuan glanced at Yi Chubai, his eyes were deep. Chapter 47 Dangerous. This scene at the moment. It surprised everyone. Southern region, known as the land of the southern barbarians by the other 3 regions. The inheritance of martial arts is backward, resources are scarce, and aura is even more lacking. Therefore, there are very few strong people who can come out of the southern region. In the 4-field academy exchanges every 10 years, Nanyu has been in the last place every time these few times. This also led to the other 3 domains looking down on people from the southern domain. Now, Xin Hongyi defeated the opponent with a crushing posture. And still under the same realm. It can be described as surprising. The people of the Eastern Territory also looked incredible. This junior brother Li was crushed by a barbarian. Although junior brother Li's strength is not top-notch, he won't be crushed, right? Shi Sheng was not surprised at all. He knew that Yi Chubai gave the Yin Dragon blood to the woman on the stage without hesitation. Yin Dragon blood is a good thing for quenching the body, it is extremely precious. If it is obtained by him, the body training technique will break through again. Shi Sheng is even sure to fight Jian Chaomian. At this time, the elder announced the result. In this battle, Xin Hongyi from the southern region will win. If the eastern region sends people up again, Xin Hongyi can choose to go on or continue. Hearing this, Xin Hongyi hesitated for a moment, then remembered Yi Chubai's figure of Zan Yinlong, nodded and said, "I want to continue." Firm tone. The elder saw this, nodded and said, "Xin Hongyi from the southern region continues to fight." After finishing speaking, he withdrew from the competition stage. On the other side, the Eastern Territory also sent people up again. "I know that person. Well, in Dongyu Academy, he belongs to the second only to Shi Sheng. It seems to be called Zheng Wai, who looks like the peak of Zifu." Zheng Wai looked at Xin Hongyi and said with a relaxed smile, "I allow you to recover first, I don't want to be said to be bullying the small." Xin Hongyi said coldly, no need. After finishing speaking, he raised his sword and rushed towards Zheng Wai. Seeing this, Zheng Wai didn't say much, he went up to Xin Hongyi and slapped her out. Suddenly, the palm prints covered the entire competition stage. Xin Hongyi was overwhelmed and was injured soon. After all, he is a person at the peak of the Zifu realm, and the other party is not an ordinary person, but also the arrogance of the academy. If he hadn't absorbed the blood of the Yin dragon, he would have been defeated long ago. Xin Hongyi bit her lip, then bit her finger, blood flew out of it. This is the secret art of the secret race. Sacrifice the sword with blood. Back then, he used this trick when fighting Yi Chubai. Now, the strength is stronger, and the power of the blood sacrificial sword is even more terrifying. Oh. Zheng Wai's face was slightly solemn, he felt the danger from this sword. Immediately, Xin Hongyi slashed at Zheng Wai with a sword. Zheng Wai's face was serious, and he slapped it out with a palm. With this palm, he showed no mercy. Just moments. The sword energy shattered, and the palm prints dissipated. Xin Hongyi flew upside down. Zheng Wai also took a few steps back, with blood spilling from the corner of his mouth, apparently also slightly injured. The elder came to the stage and said, this battle, Zheng Wai of the eastern region will win. Huo Qingming and others stepped forward and asked, how is the injury? Xin Hongyi shook her head and said, it's okay. Huang principal frowned and said, if you know you can't fight, you should back down. If you do this, even if we enter the next round, we won't be able to fight. Xin Hongyi bit her lip. Lin Ce frowned and said, hey, your words are too harsh, right? Huang Yuan gave him a sideways glance, and said, I'm just thinking about the academy. Yi Chubai handed Xin Hongyi a pill, and then said, I'll do it next time. But he didn't think about it. Huang Yuan shook his head and said, I'm going, your current state is not suitable for fighting, not to mention, you are only in the late stage of the Purple Mansion. Yi Chubai shrugged when he heard the words, but didn't say anything. The opponent, Zheng Wai, was still standing on the stage. Wasteland came up. Oh. Did the person who led the team come up in person? Zheng Wai said with a smile, don't lose to me again, or there will be no one in your Tibetan Taoist academy. As soon as the words fell, Zheng Wai's expression froze. The breath of the wasteland exploded. The breath of the early stage of Qi realm is undoubtedly revealed. Obviously, Huang Yuan's strength is at the same level as Xi Sheng's. Wang Yuan looked at Zheng Wai coldly, then stepped slightly and disappeared in place. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Zheng Wai. Before he could react, his palm was already on Zheng Wai's chest. Poof! In an instant, Zheng Wai's chest seemed to collapse. Blood spurted out wildly, flew out backwards, and landed heavily under the competition arena. One blow seriously injured Zheng Wai. Xi Sheng looked at the wasteland coldly, and said, is it necessary to hit such a heavy hand? Huang Yuan retorted. Then why did he hold back when he knocked down Xin Hongyi? Although Huang Yuan spoke harshly, it was also out of impatience. After all, if the current Nanyu Tibetan Taoism Academy is ranked last again, his master will lose his status as the dean. Xi Sheng let out a cold snort, and walked onto the competition stage himself. Have the leaders of the two sides started a duel? The realm of the two is equal, and I don't know who is better. Is there any need to think about it? Of course it is Xi Sheng. Xi Sheng is born with supernatural power and physique. How can that southern barbarian resist it? Then there seems to be only one person left on the southern side, and that is Yi Chubai, who ranks first in points. I don't know his real strength. At this moment, on the competition stage, Huang Yuan and Xi Sheng broke out in power. The breaths of the Qi realm keep colliding. Immediately, Huang Yuan snorted coldly and slapped out with a palm. A palm print with a little bit of green light slapped towards Xi Sheng. And Xi Sheng was also happy and unafraid. His footsteps stomped on the ground so hard that the martial arts stage seemed to shake a lot. Raised his fist and threw it at the green palm print. Suddenly, where the fist passed, there were sonic booms. The space seems to be squeezed. Boom. There was a loud noise. The fist slammed on the palm print. A huge wave of aftermath swept towards the surroundings. The palm print is broken. Xi Sheng also retreated a few steps one after another. For a while, neither side could do anything to the other. On the high platform, Wood said with a smile, Dean Qin, you are a good disciple. It seems that this time Nanu may have a chance to make a breakthrough. Qin Tianan took a sip of tea, his expression didn't change, and he said flatly, thank you. The Dean of the Eastern Region Academy smiled and said, however, Dean Qin, this is the only person in your Southern Region Academy, and I'm afraid you can only go so far. Yeah. Qin Tianan chuckled. How did they know that Qin Tianan's trump card was not his disciple Huang Yuan? It is impossible to go up by relying on the wasteland alone. He is optimistic about Yi Chubai. On the other side, Zhang Chan looked at the stage, but his eyes drifted vaguely to the place where the students of the Southern Region Academy were. Why? You still miss him. Besides, Huang Tianming smiled and said, then why don't you go find him? Although he said these words with a smile, his tone was full of coldness. And, do you think you'll let him leave the North Territory alive? Of course, Huang Tianming didn't say this. Chapter 48 Crushed. On the competition stage. The aftermath of the air wave continues to spread towards the surroundings. The roaring sound continued on the stage. The aura is extremely violent. The battle between Shisheng and the wilderness continues. The realm of the two is equal. Xisheng possesses natural supernatural power. The wasteland's palm technique is also extremely ingenious. Neither of them can do anything to each other. For a while, there was no winner. At this moment, Xisheng stomped on the ground with his feet, and roared like a beast. Sound waves burst. The muscles on his body swelled wildly at this moment, and his entire body doubled in size. At this moment, Xisheng felt a sense of space being squeezed all over his body. Just the power of the physical body can affect the surrounding environment. It can be seen how powerful Xisheng's physical strength is. Seeing this, Huang Yuan's eyes froze. Turning his hands over, those green glows covered his hands like armor. In the green light, there seems to be the artistic conception of wood. That's right, the wilderness has already touched the threshold of the artistic conception of wood. It is precisely because of this that the palm prints of the wasteland are continuous, and the aura is endless. Seeing this, Xisheng grinned and said, one blow will determine the outcome. Huang Yuan didn't speak, but the seriousness in his eyes and the aura that quickly condensed in his palms all represented Huang Yuan's thoughts. The power gathered at this moment, Xisheng stepped on suddenly, and shot towards the wilderness. Huang Yuan let out a cold snort, and clapped his palms out. The palm prints of green wood swept towards Xisheng like a sea of water. Boom! Xisheng's fists kept hitting those palm prints. The palm prints kept breaking, and Xisheng's body kept getting in. However, Xisheng's power is also dissipating rapidly. Obviously, both sides are constantly consuming aura. Whoever exhausts his aura first will fail. Everyone stared closely at the two people on the stage. It is estimated that only Jian Chaomian and others can participate in this kind of battle. A long while. The violent aura on the stage gradually dissipated. The figures of the two backed away at the same time. If you look carefully, you can find it. The faces of both of them are slightly pale now. Obviously, such a high-intensity fight consumes a lot of aura for the two of them. So who wins? When this question was asked, Huang Yuan said, is this the end? Xisheng nodded in agreement and said, then it's a tie. A draw. Seeing this, the elders on the side also came to the stage to announce the result. The wilderness of the southern region, the battle against Shisheng of the eastern region, a tie. Everyone was in an uproar. This result obviously exceeded their expectations. Southern region is too backward after all. According to the usual situation, in the battle between the leaders of the two sides, the southern region will be crushed every time. But now it's a tie. The elder came to the stage and said, now, there is only one person left from each party, let's go to the stage. In the eastern region, there is only one man left at the peak of the Zifu realm. In the southern region, only Yi Chubai was left. Under the eyes of everyone, the two stepped onto the competition stage. Immediately, whispers sounded. Finally it's Yi Chubai's turn. I really want to see how Yi Chubai managed to score higher points than senior brother Jian with his late-stage Zifu realm strength. The gap in realm is difficult to make up for with other things, not to mention, both sides are the arrogance of the academy. Whether it's a donkey or a horse, you'll know when you finish hunting. On stage. The man in the eastern region held his sword and said, "It's not bad that you in the southern region have made it this far, you can stop now." Yi Chubai did not answer. After all, it is useless to say so much, it is better to prove it with strength. Seeing this, the man from the eastern region frowned slightly, followed the elders, and swung his sword towards Yi Chubai. The man's swordsmanship was extremely exquisite, and the sword energy blocked all Yi Chubai's escape routes, making Yi Chubai have to face the enemy head-on. However, Yi Chubai didn't intend to retreat, the wooden sword slipped into his hand, facing the sword energy, and kept cutting. Wooden sword. It's too much, isn't it? The other party is at the peak of the purple mansion. Pretentious, that wooden sword will soon be crushed. The facts are not as these people say. The wooden sword, like the strongest sword in the world, was not damaged in the slightest by the sword energy, not even sawdust. On the other hand, the sword chi kept breaking under the wooden sword. This surprised the eastern region man, although he didn't use his full strength. But it's not something a person in the late stage of Zifu realm can resist so easily. Just about to swing the sword again. But Yi Chubai had disappeared in place. The man's face was shocked. Under the horrified eyes of everyone, Yi Chubai appeared in front of the man in the blink of an eye, and the wooden sword had already landed on his neck. No fancy sword skills. There is no such overwhelming sword energy. This is pure strength suppression. Whether it is the speed or the timing of the shot, the eastern region man has no power to parry. The man in the eastern region had an ugly face. How could he be dealt with so simply and neatly by a barbarian from the southern region? And the opponent's realm is lower than him. Looking at Yi Chubai's ancient and calm eyes, there was no surprise, nor any pleasure. As if all this is taken for granted. This made the eastern region men look even more decadent. It turns out that people who I look down on are not regarded by the other party. The elder came to the stage and announced, "Southern region Yi Chubai, win." For this exchange, there are only two people left in the southern region, namely Wangyuan and Yi Chubai. There is only one person left in the eastern region, Shisheng. To sum up, the southern region advanced. Quote, Shisheng's face was slightly ugly. Everyone finds it incredible. Not only will they lose to the eastern region. What was even more surprising was Yi Chubai's strength. A person at the peak of the Purple Mansion realm is crushed by Yi Chubai, who is at the late stage of the Purple Mansion realm. Didn't even test out the whole cards. This shows what? It shows that Yi Chubai's strength is far more than that. People from the western regions looked at this scene, some were calm, and some were slightly surprised. This year, the strength of the south region seems to be stronger than the previous ones. And it's still a lot stronger. Although the eastern region is third, its overall strength may not be much weaker than ours. Actually, it's also blamed on Dongyu for underestimating the enemy. On the side of the northern region, someone said in surprise, this time the southern region seems to be different. Jian Chaomian looked at Yi Chubai on the stage indifferently, thoughtfully. On the stage, Qin Tianan showed a smile. As for the dean of Dongyu Academy, there was no expression on his face. Reached their level and status. I no longer express what I think in my heart on my face. Congratulations to Dean Qin. Dean Qin cupped his fists and said, it's just a fluke. Wood also laughed and said, it seems that the Southern Territory has received a lot of good seedlings this time. As far as your apprentice Huang Yuan is concerned, he has already touched the threshold of the artistic conception of wood, which is quite good. Talked about the wilderness, but never mentioned Yi Chubai. Obviously, Yi Chubai's performance was not amazing enough. Can't get into the eyes of these people. Qin Tianan smiled and didn't speak. First place, Zhang Chan watched this scene, slightly relieved. P.S. I went to New Year's Eve yesterday, and the power went out again in the morning. Sorry for being too late, try to make more today. In addition, I wish you all a happy new year. Chapter 49 I Want to Fight. Southern region advances. Next, there will be a competition between the northern region and the western region. In the last session, Western Region Academy ranked second. Beiyou Academy ranked first. Although there is only one difference, the gap in strength is still quite large. On the high platform, Huang Tianming said with a smile, this year I have the Sword Court crown in the Northern Territory, I am afraid I can win the championship again. Everyone was not surprised to see that Huang Tianming was leaning towards the northern region. After all, the Sunset Dynasty is located in the Northern Territory. Wood said with a smile. Chaomian has already touched the threshold of sword intent, but others are not weak. For example, the disciple of Dean Chin has touched the threshold of the artistic conception of wood. Zhonghe's Buddhist Vajra body has also been cultivated to a very high level. So, everything is still variable. Quote. It sounds very humble, but in fact, I still think Jian Chaomian is better. Hearing this, Huang Tianming looked down and said with a smile, then I am looking forward to the performance of the Southern Region Sword Cultivator. Southern Region Sword Cultivator. Isn't that Yi Chubai? Qin Tianan looked over and frowned slightly. As the dean of the Nanyu Tibetan Taoist Academy, he naturally understands some things about Yi Chubai. Now listen to what Huang Tianming said. I'm afraid, the purpose of his coming this time is for Yi Chubai. This gave Qin Tianan a bad premonition. To be able to crush people of a higher realm than him with the strength of the middle stage of the Zifu realm, the talent must be good, and I don't know how it will be compared with Jian Chaomian. Let's take a look at the competition with the Western regions first. The other side. On the competition stage, the battle between the Northern Territory and the Western Territory has begun. There are 4 people on both sides. The strength of the 3 of them is not very different. After Zhonghe played and eliminated one person, there was only one person left in both the Western region and the Northern region. Is also the leader of both parties. The battle between Jian Chaomian and Zhonghe. The realm of the two is the same. Are all in the early stage of Qihai state. Zhonghe has cultivated the Buddhist Vajra body, making him physically invincible. And Jian Chaomian has reached the threshold of sword intent, invincible. This battle is also extremely exciting. However, Jian Chaomian is more favored by people. After all, Jian Chaomian's name is extremely famous not only in the northern region, but also in the other 3 regions. The younger generation, the number 1 swordsman, is expected to become a juggernaut. All kinds of halos make Jian Chaomian's reputation extremely prominent. Yi Chubai also looked up curiously. He also wanted to know, among his peers, how strong was this so-called number 1 swordsman. The elder stepped back, and the competition began. Zhonghe clenched his fists with both hands, his whole body seemed to be surrounded by the Buddha light, his footsteps shook, and he rushed towards the sword and crown. Jian Chaomian held the sword in one hand and held it in the other hand. He watched Zhonghe bullying him, but did not move. Wait until Zhonghe gets close. Only one sword stabbed out. This sword is extremely ordinary, without any gaudy sword light. There are only meanings covered on the sword body. The slightest traces of sword intent. But it was this sword intent that made everyone present frowned. Extremely sharp. Even Zhonghe's face changed drastically. Immediately shouted loudly, and the Buddha's light flourished all over his body. There is a golden light covering itself, like a golden armor. Buddhist diamond body. The body training technique of Buddhism in the Western regions. Cultivated to the highest level can be invincible. It's just that there is no indestructible law in this world. Facing the sword intent of Jian Chaomian, Zhonghe's fists were directly poked out of blood holes. The Buddhist Vajra body was so vulnerable in front of Jian Chaomian's sword. This surprised everyone. Zhonghe's complexion changed in shock, and he backed away clutching his fist. Jian Chaomian's expression remained unchanged. The realm is equal, but can't let the sword move toward the crown. Just one sword broke Zhonghe's Buddhist Vajra body. This has just touched the threshold. If Jian Chaomian can truly comprehend the sword intent, what level of strength should he reach? Huang Yuan looked at this scene with a dignified expression. Ask yourself, although he has touched the threshold of the artistic conception of wood, the level of artistic conception of wood is far lower than the artistic conception of sword. If it is done by yourself, I am afraid it will not be much better than Zhonghe. Moreover, Zhonghe's exercises should also be extremely restrained against the wilderness. Calculated in this way, I am afraid that Nanyu can only get the 3rd place. Third, it is still not enough to change the fact that Qin Tianan will be replaced. This made Huang Yuan's face extremely ugly. Xin Hongyi walked up to Yi Chubai, her face still pale, and asked aloud, Yi Chubai, if you fight with this sword, who will win? Yi Chubai said lightly, I will win. Zhansho, straight to the point, speaks the same way. Will not lie, will not beat around the bush. Be what you are. It was like Yi Chubai felt that Jian Chaomian was not his opponent. At this time, the battle on the martial arts arena was also decided. Several blood holes have appeared on Zhang Henna's body, which is like wearing golden armor. Breath is extremely sluggish. And the sword faces the crown, still standing in place. His face remained unchanged. Who wins and who loses can be seen at a glance. The elder stepped onto the stage at this moment, looked at Jian Chaomian appreciatively, and then said, Jian Chaomian wins this battle. At the same time, there is only one person left in the Northern Territory, and the Northern Territory will advance. The promotion of the Northern Territory. It was not as unexpected as Nanyu's advancement. It seems to be expected, and it should be normal. But of course, the Northern Territory has maintained the host position for the past few sessions. It is strange not to take the first place. Zhang Hyuk stepped down. However, Jian Chaomian did not go down, but still stood there. Everyone was puzzled. Even Wood looked over. Just when everyone is in doubt. Jian Chaomian looked in the direction of the Nanyu Academy team. His eyes fell on Yi Chubai. The language is amazing. There's nothing interesting in the future, just the two of us will decide the outcome. Everyone was shocked. Who, with the people in the Southern Region Academy, directly decide the outcome? Could it be the wasteland? But the strength of the wasteland is almost the same as that of Zhonghe. How could it be possible for Brother Jian to raise his fighting spirit? However, Wang Yuan didn't think so, because Jian Chaomian's eyes obviously didn't fall on him. Instead, he looked at Yi Chubai behind him. In Jian Chaomian's eyes, Wang Yuan didn't see him. This surprised Wang Yuan. Why would Jian Chaomian want to challenge Yi Chubai, who has such a huge gap in realm? On the high platform, the four principals watched this scene with great interest and did not stop it. Yi Chubai met Jian Chaomian's gaze, smiled lightly and said, is this in compliance? Jian Chaomian was expressionless. Why is it against the rules? No one else is my opponent, only you, I can't see through. Arrogance. Extremely arrogant. However, no one refuted Jian Chaomian. Judging from Jian Chaomian's calm defeat of Zhonghe just now, what he said was true. It's just that everyone wondered why Jian Chaomian said he couldn't see through Yi Chubai. The other party is obviously only in the late stage of Zifu realm. There is a big difference between Jian Chaomian and Jian Chaomian. Leaf Autumn White. How is he worthy? Chapter 50 Sword Intent, Killing Heart. The sword faces the crown. Practiced sword at the age of 3. 6-year-old can release sword light. 12 years old possesses sword energy. Now, I have touched the threshold of Kendo. A supreme elder of the Tibetan Taoist Academy in the Northern Territory, who is also a sword cultivator. It is also the strongest swordsman in the Northern Territory today. He once said that when the opportunity comes, Jian Chaomian can be called the Sword Master. And what does Yi Chubai have? The name is unknown. The realm is only in the late Zifu realm. Although the actual strength can leapfrog battles, Jian Chaomian is a strong man in the Qixi realm. What's more, Jian Chaomian can also fight at higher levels. And it's rolling over steps. Under the suppression of layers of halos, how likely is Yi Chubai to win? Leaving a person with layers of aura regardless. Instead of thinking that a little-known person with such a big gap in realm can win. Nobody thinks that way. At the same time, the deans on the high platform thought the same way. Except Qin Tianan. Huang Tianming looked at this scene, let out a hush, and said with a smile, what does Jian Chaomian mean? Wood also shook his head and said, this kid Chaomian is dedicated to the sword, and sometimes I can't figure out his thoughts. Could it be that Jian Chaomian thinks Yi Chubai is his opponent? Qin Tianan smiled lightly at this time, why can't it be like this? Oh. Wood smiled slightly, and said, it seems that Dean Qin is very optimistic about your disciple, it seems to be more than your own disciple. Hearing this, Qin Tianan just smiled and didn't speak any more. At this time, Jian Chaomian looked up at the high platform, and said loudly, Masters, do you agree to Chaomian's request? If not, I can defeat the leaders of the other two domains first. There is a naturalness in the tone. It seems that this is a very easy and common thing. Huang Yuan and Shi Sheng had ugly faces when they heard this, but they couldn't refute. Because Jian Chaomian does have this strength. After a long while, Wood stood up and said, aloud. At this moment, everyone looked at Yi Chubai on the competition stage. Huang Yuan looked at Yi Chubai with a complicated expression and puzzled expression. Qin Tianan looked at Yi Chubai with expectation. Huang Tianming also stared at Yi Chubai, wondering what he was thinking. Beside Huang Tianming, Zhang Chan rubbed his hands tightly. Jian Chaomian also looked at Yi Chubai, and said, "Come up." Hearing this, Yi Chubai raised his eyebrows, clasped his sword in both hands, and said, "Why do you want to fight me?" Jian Chaomian replied, "I can feel that you have an aura similar to mine." That's it. Isn't that enough? Zhanshu's sense is very accurate, whether it is for crisis, opportunity, or breath. Yi Chubai nodded and said, "That's as you wish." The competition stage is not high. There are 9 steps. Yi Chubai stepped forward, stepping on the first step. The sword energy suddenly exploded wantonly. The entire space is filled with sharp sword energy. This sword energy changed everyone's face. It seems to be able to cut everything. Hu Yuan, Shisheng and Zhang He all changed their expressions. Because they felt a threat from this sword energy. Could this be Yi Chubai's true strength? At this time, Yi Chubai took the second step. Step up to the second level. At this moment, a monstrous demonic energy emerged from the sky. Blending with the wanton sword energy between heaven and earth. The hearts and minds of all the people present have been affected to a certain extent. People with low cultivation bases want to kneel down and surrender. And people with high cultivation bases are actually trembling. The same goes for Wasteland and others. Jian Chaomian on the stage saw this scene with a look of interest in his eyes. A sword energy also swept out, as if it was resisting Yi Chubai's extremely corrosive black sword energy. On the high platform, Huang Tianming also leaned forward slightly. Looking at this scene, he couldn't help but wonder, is there really an adventure? Xin Hongyi looked at Yi Chubai's back, slightly lost in thought. This aura has far surpassed her. Sure enough, is it hard to catch up? Every step up, Yi Chubai's sword energy will become stronger. The breath on the body will continue to rise. Everyone's horrifying discovery. Now Yi Chubai's aura is no longer comparable to that of an ordinary person in the late stage of Zifu realm. The breath was so close to the sea of qi. At this time, on the high platform, Would Shi also smiled in surprise. "Oh. Dean Qin, this student of yours is still hiding quite deeply." The dean of Dongyu Academy also smiled, saying, "No wonder you can defeat Zhou Xing with a single sword." Zhou Xing was the person at the peak of the Zifu realm who was crushed by Yi Chubai. Qin Tianan said with a light smile, "I don't know about the students themselves." Old fox. The deans of the other 3 academies couldn't help cursing inwardly. In the first place, Zhang Chan clasped his hands together and put them between his knees, watching this scene with surprise in his eyes. He really recovered his talent. And stronger than before. Huang Tianming frowned. He had heard about the disappearance of Yi Chubai's talent. Nowadays, talent is not only recovered, but also the progress of cultivation is so fast. I'm afraid, I have to let Yingxia speed up the action. But, the next moment. When Yi Chubai stepped out of the 9th step and came to the competition stage. A sword cry soared into the sky. In this space, except for the monstrous sword intent and wanton magic energy. Another thing is criss-crossing the competition arena. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. Huang Yuan, Shisheng, and Zhang He all changed their expressions in shock. On the high platform, the dean of Xiuyou has a dignified face. Qin Tianan was even more surprised. On the martial arts arena, Jian Chaomian was stunned for a moment, then his face showed ecstasy, laughed 3 times, and took out the long sword, and the sword intent covered it. Sure enough, my feeling is not wrong. If we say that the scene just now only made Huang Tianming murderous. Now, Yi Chubai's strength has made Huang Tianming stand up suddenly. The killing intent in the eyes is overflowing. How can this be? How could it be sword intent? That's right, Yi Chubai released his sword intent without reservation. It is different from Jian Chaomian's sword intent just touching the threshold. Yi Chubai's sword intent has reached the level of a great sword master. Yi Chubai, how long have you only practiced swords? Can comprehend the sword intent to this level? What kind of talent is this? If this person is not killed immediately, Huang Tianming will feel uneasy. Immediately, Huang Tianming said to the general behind him, "The match is over, immediately dispatch the Shura cavalry to kill Yi Chubai. Also, Immediately send a voice transmission to the palace to enshrine, and to eunuch Ming, let him come in person. Quote. The general listened, with a serious face, nodded and immediately flew to the ship, wanting to contact the people in the palace. He knew that Huang Tianming had murderous intentions. Aside, Zhang Chan was not surprised. Seeing this scene, he felt anxious. At this moment, Yi Chubai held the wooden sword in one hand, looked at Jian Chaomian, and said calmly, let's do it. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 51 Southern Territory wins, Iron Cavalry out. The land of the extreme north. Hongying opened her eyes and looked at Yunming in front of her. At this moment, Yunming's injuries have recovered. It's just that the realm still hasn't returned to its heyday. Hongying got up and said, okay, let's go. Yunming said respectfully, it's your majesty, are we going to find the rest of the Nine Heavens department now? Hearing this, Hongying shook her head, go and find my senior brother. Brother. Yunming was dumbfounded, and said in a daze, since when does his majesty have a senior brother? Who else is qualified to be his majesty's master? Hongying looked over indifferently, and said in a cold tone, since it is the master I recognize, it is naturally worthy of it. Seemingly feeling Hongying's displeasure, Yunming immediately knelt down and said in panic, this subordinate is guilty. Seeing this, Hongying nodded and said, I will not make an example. She is the Eternal Empress, so how can others question her actions? What's more, Master's cultivation base is unfathomable, and even her strength cannot see through it. Every time I detect the past, it is like observing a piece of chaos. It's just that my master doesn't seem to realize it. Thinking of this, Hongying couldn't help laughing helplessly. Okay, let's go to my senior brother first, and then go back to meet the master. Yes. Comma. At the same time. Beiyou Tibetan Taoist Academy. Sword intent whistling. This Yi Chubai actually comprehended the sword intent. Earlier than Brother Jian, and this is already a great sword intent. That is to say, this Yi Chubai has reached the level of a great swordsman in the late stage of Zifu realm. This is too monstrous. If it is said that Jian Chaomian may enter the level of Juggernaut, then Yi Chubai, as long as he does not fall in the future, he will become a sword master in the future. This is also the reason why Huang Tianming wanted to kill Yi Chubai on the spot. If Yi Chubai becomes a sword master, it will be a fatal blow to the Sunset Dynasty in the future. At this moment, on the competition stage, Yi Chubai held the wooden sword in one hand, looked at Jian Chaomian, and said lightly, let's do it. Jian Chaomian looked at the Hengtian sword Qi, his eyes showed excitement, and at the same time, there was fanaticism. He was a sword all his life. Now he has finally touched the threshold of sword intent. However, the person in front of him who is the same age as him has already reached the level of a great sword master. If we say that the former Jian Chaomian has no target to pursue, but can only be looked up to. Now, Jian Chaomian has a goal to catch up with. Why isn't this exciting? Jian Chaomian laughed loudly, and the aura burst out from his body unreservedly. The sword Qi uttered a sword cry, soaring into the sky. It seems to be singing joyously. Seeing this, Zhang He couldn't help but look ugly. The opponent did not use his full strength when fighting him. Today's sword Chaomian is the sword Chaomian in its heyday. Breadth far surpasses him. At this time, Jian Chaomian was holding a long sword, the sword glow surged, and ran towards Yi Chubai. As far as approaching, the sword swung toward Mian. The sword with wisps of sword intent cut towards Yi Chubai's chest. Bring the momentum of thunder. The surrounding space is constantly shaking. It seems that it will shatter at any time. Yi Chubai flipped his palm, and stabbed the wooden sword towards the sword at the same time. Suddenly, the Hengtian sword intent in the world seemed to obey Yi Chubai. Following the wooden sword, sweep towards the sword and crown. Like a long river of sword intent, the momentum is terrifying. Jian Chaomian saw this, his face remained unchanged, and his eyes were filled with fanaticism. He touched the threshold of sword intent and could not enter. Now, if the opponent attacks him with sword intent, it is naturally impossible for him to retreat. Jian Chaomian wanted to use Yi Chubai's sword intent to help him cross that threshold. Is it dangerous? Of course it is dangerous. And the danger is deadly. But what is a sword repair? For the sake of the sword, I knew it was impossible to do it. Don't back down. Once you take that step back, you may develop a demon in the way of swordsmanship, and you will not be able to advance an inch from now on. Jian Chaomian knew this truth well. His sword heart, he is not allowed to retreat. Thinking of this, Jian Chaomian's sword intent seems to be more solid. The sword meets the wooden sword. The sword intent like a little fish collided with the long river of sword intent. The answer is self-evident. Under everyone's horrified eyes, Jian Chaomian's sword intent was directly swallowed by the river of sword intent. Jian Chaomian was also immediately swallowed by the river of sword intent. The expression of the elders in the audience changed. He was about to save someone, but was stopped by a man. The elders saw this, and immediately said, "Dean, crown him." It was Wood Time who came. Wood said, "Although Chaomian's aura is a little weaker, it seems to have entered a mysterious state." The elder felt relieved. After all, the dean said so, there must be nothing wrong. Everyone stared closely at the sword intent river. I don't know what the status of Jian Chaomian is now. Known as the younger generation, the sword court crown of the first sword cultivator will not just fall like this, right? Although, after today, this title will become Yi Chubai. At this time, Yi Chubai swung the wooden sword, and the sword intent dissipated in the sky and the earth. Reveals the figure of the sword facing the crown. I saw that now Jian Chaomian's eyes are slightly closed, and there is an extremely mysterious aura about him. Epiphany. Jian Chaomian entered a state of epiphany. Wood looked happy. Above the high platform, the director of Dongyu said with emotion, "It seems that this kid is going to step over the threshold and truly understand the sword intent." The dean of the western regions had a bald head and said with a smile, "Dean Qin, you are a student with a good heart and talent, why don't you give him to me at the Western Region Tibetan Taoist Academy? It just so happens that there is an elder on our side who focuses on the sword, the better for his achievements." Quote. Qin Tianan laughed aloud, and said, "That's not allowed, what's more, Yi Chubai was not taught by me, and I have nothing to do with his master. Oh. Then I want to see this strange man in the future, who is able to teach such a disciple." That's right. Yi Chubai's sword intent is not offensive. This is what Yi Chubai did on purpose. After all, Jian Chaomian has no enmity with him, and the other party's pursuit of kendo is extremely pure. This also made Yi Chubai want to help him. In this way, Jian Chaomian was fulfilled. Half a day later, Jian Chaomian had a sword sound on his body. A sword intent soared into the sky. Jian Chaomian successfully realized the sword intent and reached the level of a sword master. It's just that it's still far from Yi Chubai's level. Jian Chaomian opened his eyes, looked at Yi Chubai and said, "Thank you, I will remember this favor." Yi Chubai smiled lightly, but didn't care. Subsequently, Jian Chaomian took the initiative to admit defeat. After all, even after realizing the sword intent, he is no match for Yi Chubai. Wood Shi also stood on the stage, glanced at Yi Chubai appreciatively, and said, "Yi Chubai wins this exchange, Nanyu ranks first." The western regions and the eastern regions also competed for a while, and in the end, the eastern regions ranked last. In the end, no one challenged Yi Chubai anymore. After all, Yi Chubai's sword intent has been mastered, so he can only seek abuse. When Wood announced the result. In the sky, murderous intent erupted from Shira cavalry, sweeping towards Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai's face changed, and his waist sank slightly. Huang Tianming stood up at this time, and said to Yi Chubai, are you guilty? Chapter 52 Dead End. Dark clouds are pressing down on the city to destroy it. Hundreds of Shira cavalry wearing black refined iron armor stood in the sky, exuding murderous intent. Suddenly, the sky seemed to turn into a sea of blood. And those Shira iron cavalry also seemed to step out of the sea of corpses and blood. When the others felt the killing intent, they couldn't help trembling. There are even those who are not mentally strong, and directly slumped on the ground. Covered in cold sweat. This is just some aftermath of killing intent. Yi Chubai, who was targeted by the killing intent emanating from these hundreds of Shira cavalry, also turned slightly pale at this moment, and his waist sank slightly. Seems to want to overwhelm it. However, Yi Chubai has gone through the assessment of the demon and has a sword heart, so naturally he will not lose his mind like others. It's just that this killing intent is too huge. Huang Tianming stood on the high platform, looked at Yi Chubai indifferently, and said indifferently, Yi Chubai, are you guilty? Zhang Chan's face turned pale. And Qin Tianan's expression changed even more. He looked at Huang Tianming, and said with a heavy face, Your Highness, what is the meaning of this? Huang Tianming didn't answer Qin Tianan, and continued to put pressure on Yi Chubai. Seeing this, Qin Tianan was anxious, and immediately ran towards Yi Chubai. However, a middle-aged man came to Qin Tianan and stopped him. Looking at the man's appearance, Qin Tianan's expression darkened. Fan Jingyao. Have you joined the Sunset Dynasty? Fan Jingyao, ranked 27th on the 4 regions martial arts list. One place behind Qin Tianan, but the strength is not much different. Fan Jingyao smiled, and said, I can't help it, I owe them a favor, Qin Tianan, you know, it's hard to repay a favor. Qin Tianan's face darkened for a while. Obviously, Huang Tian will be prepared tomorrow morning. Now, seeing Yi Chubai's talent, he doesn't want to wait anymore, and wants to get rid of the troubles directly. Qin Tianan is blocked now. The Dean of the Eastern Region Academy and the Dean of the Western Region Academy watched this scene, but did not act immediately, and waited and watched. After all, the strength of the Sunset Dynasty is still daunting. Yi Chubai raised his head with difficulty, gritted his teeth and said, What is the crime? Huang Tianming naturally wouldn't tell the truth, didn't answer Yi Chubai's question, and waved at Shira's cavalry, kill them on the spot. Immediately. The Shira iron cavalry in the sky let out a roar at this moment. That roar was actually mixed with killing intent, and it roared towards Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai's eyes shook, and he let out a long whistle. The dark demon is taken out, and the monstrous demonic energy soars into the sky. At the same time, the sword intent screamed, resisting the killing intent. Facing the C, the Shira iron cavalry swept over with the sound of hooves. Yi Chubai propped up his body, his back was as straight as a gun. Strains of sword intent soared into the sky, forming a confrontation with the sea of blood. Countless people stared at this scene. Heart tremors. With the cultivation base of the Zifu, face the might of thousands of troops alone. What a boldness this is. What courage. At this time, the elder of the Confucian Academy looked solemn, and stepped forward, intending to rush to help Yi Chubai. However, there was a figure blocking the elder of the Confucian Academy ahead of time. Elder Wutang was extremely anxious, and also wanted to support Yi Chubai. But there will still be people standing in front of him. Obviously, Huang Tianming's preparations were extremely thorough. In this way, there will be no one to support Yi Chubai. Xin Hongyi gritted her teeth and wanted to rush up, but was pulled back by Huang Yuan. What are you doing? If you don't want to go up, I will go up by myself. Wang Yuan stared at Yi Chubai on the stage, and now he was sweating coldly just feeling the aftermath of the killing intent. What's the use of you going? Even the aftermath of our murderous intent needs a large part of our minds to carry it. Going up will only add chaos to Yi Chubai and distract him. Lin Ce was at the side, with a slightly pale face, and said with a wry smile, What Wang Yuan said is right, any one of us going up now will only add to Yi Chubai's confusion. Huo Qingming clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. He hated this feeling of powerlessness. At this moment, Yi Chubai supported this huge killing intent alone. His expression was solemn, and his face turned pale. Obviously, this is extremely reluctant for him. Everyone in Shira Iron Cavalry has the cultivation base of Purple Mansion Realm. Moreover, the equipment is excellent, and all have experienced storms. How could the aura contained in it not be strong? On the high platform, Huang Tianming looked at this scene, his eyes could not help being startled. Yi Chubai, who is only in the Purple Mansion, can resist the oppression of Shira's Iron Cavalry. If he is allowed to grow up, it may become a trouble for the Sunset Dynasty. Thinking of this, Huang Tianming's killing intent became even stronger. Waved his hand and said, General, go and lead the Shira cavalry to kill Yi Chubai. Although he thought it was unnecessary, the general still didn't dare to disobey Huang Tianming's words. He nodded and stepped to the front of Shira's iron cavalry. The general is a strong man in the water overflow environment, and he joined. Yi Chubai's power instantly increased several times. This fluctuating killing intent made it difficult for Yi Chubai to breathe. Qin Tianan and others wanted to support them, but they were blocked. Yi Chubai looked at this scene, his face darkened. Now that the general has joined, Yi Chubai can no longer resist this power with the dark demon alone. Was about to pull out Qingyun sword. Did the Sunset Dynasty deceive me that there is no one in the academy? An old man came to Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai suddenly felt his body lighten, and the murderous intent was all dispelled by the old man in front of him. See this old man. Huang Tianming's expression darkened instantly. Qin Tianan heaved a sigh of relief. On the high platform, Huang Tianming said in a deep voice, Old Yun, this person has enmity with my Sunset Dynasty, not to mention, he is from the southern region. If there is anyone in this Beiyu Tibetan Taoist Academy who can make Huang Tianming feel afraid, that is the Cloud Scene. Because Yun Jing is the supreme elder of the Tibetan Taoist Academy in the Northern Territory. At the same time, he is also the strongest swordsman in the Northern Territory. Reached the realm of Zhanzong. Ranked 6th in the 4 regions martial arts list. However, even the 4th-ranked leader of the Sunset Dynasty would be extremely afraid of his swordsmanship. Yun Jing said lightly, so what about the southern region? He is also a member of the academy. Huang Tianming's face was ugly, and he said, then Lao Yun and Beiyu Tibetan Taoist Academy are going to protect him to death. Yun Jing didn't reply again, but he still stood in front of Yi Chubai. Obviously, he had already expressed his meaning. Yi Chubai said immediately, thank you, Mr. Yun. Yun Jing looked back, nodded appreciatively, and said, you are a good seedling. You are more talented than Chao Mian. There should be no problem with the sword master. Sword facing the crown. Yun Jing said, Jian Chaomian is my disciple. Yi Chubai suddenly realized. However, the good times didn't last long, and there was a loud laughter in the sky. Laughter is neither male nor female. Old man Yun, let us take a look, how much has your sword become stronger recently? Yun Jing listened, sighed, drew out the sword in his hand, and left a sentence, it's up to you. Afterwards, he jumped up and fought with the asterisk in the sky. Huang Tianming sneered and said, Yi Chubai, who else can help you now? Chapter 53 Hongying comes. Under the black Shura cavalry. Yi Chubai's figure looked very lonely. The general looked at Yi Chubai, snorted coldly, and said, now, who else can save you? Immediately, with the power of Shura's iron cavalry, he slapped it out with one palm. That asterisk palm print seemed to incorporate the asterisk killing intent of Shura's iron cavalry. This blow seems to have surpassed the level of the overflowing water. In stepping through the shackles of the water overflowing state, you have reached the so-called Qianyuan state. What is Qianyuan? Generally refers to the Son of Heaven. Those who enter the 4 regions martial arts rankings are also at the Qianyuan stage at the lowest level. Obviously, the general wants to kill Yi Chubai directly. To avoid future troubles. Yi Chubai looked at this scene, his expression changed. This palm, he can't resist, unless he sacrifices Qingyun sword. But, what about after the Qingyun sword is sacrificed? He will have no chance of escape. However, if you don't use it now, you can't resist it. Immediately, when Yi Chubai was about to pull out the Qingyun sword, a jade pendant suddenly floated out from the ring and floated in front of Yi Chubai. It was the jade pendant that Hongying gave him. The huge blood-red palm print hit the jade pendant. Immediately. Before the jade pendant, a phoenix mark appeared. A fire phoenix with red flames burning all over its body raised its head and screamed. Beware. The general's expression changed. The phoenix mark completely blocked his palm print. That fire phoenix actually spread its wings and waved a flame. The breath in the flames is no less than that of a person in the Qianyuan realm. There are streaks of flames in it. Even Yun Jing, who was colliding in midair, and Eunuch Ming looked down, with a look of surprise on their faces. When Huang Tianming saw this, he also sank. He didn't think about Yi Chubai's background. After all, he had already investigated it clearly. A land of southern barbarians, the Yi family in the small Tianyuan city. Although they are known as the 4 great families, but none of them are strong in the 4 realms martial arts list, so how strong can they be? This jade pendant was probably obtained by Yi Chubai by chance. The general fought back hastily. At the same time, the Shura cavalry behind him also shouted in unison, forming a row like a city wall. All the spears in their hands stabbed out. For a moment, the strength of the spear merged to form a huge spear with killing intent, piercing towards the phoenix flame. Boom! In the sky, two areas are formed. Yi Chubai's side is fiery red, like a purgatory of red flames. On the other side, Shira cavalry side. The murderous intent is wanton, just like Shira's blood prison. The two collided, and the aftermath of the battle suddenly exploded. The people around hurriedly retreated, and Jian Chaomian and the others released aura defenses. A long while. Aftermath dissipates. In front of Yi Chubai, the jade pendant disappeared. The Shira cavalry and the general were still standing in the air, but their breath was slightly sluggish. Seeing this scene, the general sneered and said, "Now you, what else do you have?" On the high platform, Huang Tianming impatiently gave orders. "Don't procrastinate, kill Yi Chubai quickly." Qin Tianan on the side also had anxious eyes, wondering if Yi Chubai had other means. If not, I'm afraid he will be in trouble today. How should this be explained to Changsheng? What face do you have to meet Changsheng? I brought Yi Chubai here, but couldn't bring him back. I'm afraid Lu Changsheng will be extremely disappointed with him. At this moment, Yi Chubai looked coldly at the Shira cavalry in the sky, and put away the dark demon. Seeing this scene, the general sneered. Why did you give up resistance? After speaking, the general waved his hand. Suddenly, the Shira iron cavalry in midair seemed to have received an order, and rushed towards Yi Chubai. In a dense mass of darkness, the murderous aura gathered together to form a murderous blood shadow, with a terrifying aura. Seeing this, Yi Chubai touched the ring with his hand. Want to take out Qingyun Sword. Qingyun Sword is also his last resort. Thinking of this, Yi Chubai couldn't help but smile bitterly in his heart. I'm afraid, I can't go back to cook for master. Just at this moment, a red light streaked across the sky. On the other side, Eunuch Ming's face changed drastically. Oops. The voice just fell. A man charged into the Shira cavalry with a spear in hand. Immediately, a series of guns formed the shape of a tornado. In the tornado of gun power, there is actually the artistic conception of a gun. And nearly half of the Shira cavalry were directly crushed by this spear force tornado. The general was taken aback for a moment, then turned his head suddenly. Huang Tianming also fixed his eyes on the man with the gun. Where is the sacred place? To be able to instantly kill nearly half of the Shira cavalry. Yi Chubai was also taken aback. Immediately, a woman appeared beside him. Brother, are you okay? Yi Chubai took a closer look, and couldn't help saying happily, Junior sister. Why are you here? The person who came was Hongying. The man who rushed into Shira's cavalry was naturally Yun Ming. Now, although Yun Ming has recovered from his injuries, his realm is still sealed, only half a step away from Qianyuan. However, at this level, there is no pressure to fight against Shira cavalry. Hongying looked around and said, my work is done, and I am on my way here. But halfway through, I felt that the protective jade pendant I gave you was shattered, so I sped up and rushed over. Fortunately, I caught up. Quote. At this time, Yun Ming also returned to Hongying, and said respectfully, Your Majesty, please tell me how to deal with these people. Hongying didn't answer directly, but looked at Yi Chubai beside her. Obviously, she was asking Yi Chubai for his opinion. Yun Ming couldn't help being surprised when he saw this scene. Your Majesty is actually asking for other people's opinions. Is this person His Majesty's brother? Looked up and down, but found nothing surprising. He is just a young man with good talent. Yi Chubai looked at the general and the others, and said, leave them all, presumably, the Sunset Dynasty will also be very painful. The Shira Iron Cavalry is the trump card of the Sunset Dynasty, and here, there are nearly half of the Shira Iron Cavalry in the entire dynasty. Leave all of them here, and the Sunset Dynasty will naturally feel pain. After all, training a Shira cavalry will cost a lot of resources. Hongying nodded and looked at Yunming. Yunming naturally understood what Hongying meant, turned around and rushed towards Shira's cavalry. For a while, gun intent filled the sky. The screams kept ringing. In just a few breaths, the Shira cavalry here are all wiped out. Even the general couldn't survive 3 rounds in Yunming's hands. Became the ghost of Yunming's gun. 9 Heavens Department, each one is good at a weapon, and Yunming is good at spears. Huang Tianming watched this scene, stared at Hongying firmly, and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Hongying didn't even look at him. She is the empress. In her eyes, Huang Tianming is just an ant-like existence. Why should she lower her self-esteem to answer? Chapter 54-9 Netherworld Formation. The Sunset Dynasty is extremely powerful. The background is even richer. Several of the people on the list of the 4 regions' martial arts rankings are enshrined by the Sunset Dynasty. Among them, the leader of the Sunset Dynasty ranked 4th. Now, eunuch Ming, who is fighting with Yun Jing, is also ranked 7th. Sunset Dynasty with such strength can be described as a top power among the 4 domains. No one dares to offend. Emperor Tianmingui is the eldest prince of the Sunset Dynasty and the successor of the next king. He was honored as the honored guest by countless forces. This is such a person with a terrifying background and great power in the eyes of everyone. In Hongying's eyes, she was like an ant. And Yun Ming shouted in a low voice, "Presumptuous! How dare you ask His Majesty's name at will?" Hearing this, Huang Tianming laughed wildly, shook his sleeves, and said loudly, "In this northern territory, besides my father, who else dares to call you your majesty?" This remark is arrogant. But it is true. After all, in the northern territory, the Sunset Dynasty is the absolute overlord. Yun Ming's face darkened, and he drank. "I'm courting death." As soon as the voice fell, the spear in his hand was thrown out suddenly. With the momentum of thunder, with the artistic conception of a spear, he pierced towards Huang Tianming. Huang Tianming's face changed slightly, and he couldn't dodge at all. However, in front of Huang Tianming, an old man dressed in **** uniform suddenly appeared, and the whisk in his hand turned into thousands of threads, entangled the spear. It was eunuch Ming who ranked 7th on the martial arts list. Eunuch Ming's expression changed slightly the moment the whisk wrapped around the spear. Although the cultivation base in it has not yet reached the Qianyuan realm, its power makes him feel palpitations. You know, he is in the middle stage of Qianyuan realm. Your Highness, we may have to retreat first. Looking at eunuch Ming's dignified face, Huang Tianming was startled, and asked a little unwillingly, "Is the opponent's strength so strong?" Eunuch Ming explained in a deep voice, "The opponent has more high-level combat power than us, and Yun Jing is on their side. Our family can only hold one of them. If this is the case, our family cannot guarantee the safety of His Highness." Quote. Hearing the words, Huang Tianming pondered for a while, then nodded and said, "Okay, then listen to eunuch Ming." After speaking, eunuch Ming returned to the ship with Huang Tianming and his party. The remaining Shira cavalry also received the order and followed behind the ship. Before Zhang Chan left, he glanced at Yi Chubai with a complicated expression, and then left as well. Yi Chubai looked at the departing ship and couldn't help feeling, it seems that if you want to take revenge with your own strength, you still need a long way. Nowadays, Yi Chubai's strength still has a lot of gaps when facing the overflowing water, and when he doesn't use the Qingyun sword. Hongying said from the side, "Brother, with your talent, coupled with the teaching of the master, it is not difficult to surpass them." Yi Chubai smiled. At this time, Yun Jing came over and said, "You are very good, do you want to consider joining my sect?" Yi Chubai's kendo talent is really good. Yun Jing couldn't help but cherish talents. Jian Chaomian and the others who came to the side couldn't help being taken aback. Jian Chaomian was even more stunned. "Master, didn't you say that you only accept me as a closed disciple?" Yun Jing turned his head and glanced at Jian Chaomian, and said lightly, "I suddenly regretted it." Sword facing the crown. Wang Yuan Shisheng and others were even more surprised. The opponent is the strongest swordsman in the Northern Territory, and now he has also moved to accept disciples. Hongying also joked from the side, "Brother, you are quite popular." Yi Chubai also scratched his head helplessly, he was the elder of Jiantang before, but now he is this Yunjing. "Senior Yun, sorry, I already have a master." Yun Jing stared and said, "Isn't your master more suitable for you than me?" Yi Chubai shook his head and said with a smile, "Since I have already apprenticed as a teacher, I will naturally not change my school easily. This will damage my heart of swordsmanship." Hearing this, Yunjing nodded. However, after hearing the next words, Yunjing almost choked to death. "However, I'm afraid Senior Yun is still inferior to Master." Yun Jing looked at Yi Chubai's clear eyes, nodded and said, then if there is a chance, I must meet with your teacher for a while. I will tell master. Hearing this, Yun Jingting nodded, and said to Jian Chaomian, okay, don't look at it, go back to practice with me, look at others, and then look at you, can you win? Jian Chaomian suddenly feels aggrieved. That's not what you said before. The wasteland, Shisheng, and Zhonghe on one side blushed even more. Jian Chaomian was said to be bad, so wouldn't they be even worse? Qin Tianan also walked over at this moment, looking at Hongying with a little surprise in his eyes. Your Majesty. It seems that Changsheng, the second disciple, is not easy. However, Qin Tianan would not ask a student about his life experience, so he turned his head and patted Yi Chubai on the shoulder, saying, well done, thanks to you this time. Everyone has contributed too. Qin Tianan nodded, okay, get ready, go back to the academy, you will be satisfied with the reward this time. Comma. At the same time, Nanyu Tibetan Taoist Academy, thatched cottage. Lu Changsheng looked up at the moment. In mid-air, there are 3 men and 1 woman suspended. The bodies of these 4 figures are not real, but have an illusionary feeling. Lu Changsheng also recognized one of the men, which was the huge face on the blood prison secret realm before. One of the men said, Your Excellency, where did you come from? Where is the universe? Lu Changsheng was taken aback for a moment, then thought about it, and said seriously, you probably haven't heard of it. The woman's complexion changed, and she said, huh. It really came from another universe. Then dare to ask Your Excellency, what is the name of that universe? Lu Changsheng spread his hands and said, I told you that you might not know each other. The woman sneered, although we dare not say that we can fully recognize the universe around here, we at least know most of it. Don't underestimate our intelligence network, Your Excellency. One of the men took up the conversation again, so, how about the martial arts in that universe? Are they all the same as Your Excellency? Lu Changsheng thought for a while, and said seriously, martial arts. Our martial arts has become a healthcare project. For example, Tai Chi or something. Now it's not just old people who are doing laps in the square. We all use something called a gun over there, or else it's a missile or something. Lu Changsheng became more energetic as he talked. But the 3 men and 1 woman became more and more confused as they listened. They looked at each other and asked each other. Have you heard of it? No. Which universe has these things? One of the men said with a heavy face, Your Excellency, are you kidding us? Lu Changsheng said innocently, no. The woman snorted coldly. Since this is the case, there is no need to say more, let's take action together. The other 3 also nodded. Lu Changsheng couldn't help being slightly surprised when he saw the other party's breath rising. Immediately shouted in a hurry, Jiuyou Wenquan Big Formation, start. Chapter 55 I said I didn't do it on purpose, believe it or not. 9 Secluded Wenquan Array is one of the ancient killing arrays. The killing power in it is beyond doubt. The willow tree on the cliff saw this scene and couldn't help being a little speechless. These are just a few projections. Moreover, even if the main body came here, there is no need to use the 9 netherworld formation. This is too good to be useful. The little bird on the branch is also quite helpless. Even though his cultivation base is so high, he has no self-knowledge and is still so cautious. At this moment, in mid-air, the 4 figures felt the killing power rising slowly, and their expressions changed drastically. With this power, they have no power to resist. Can't even raise the slightest thought of taking the blow of such a formation. Run. Can only run. However, how could Lu Changsheng let them go? Immediately, flip the palm of your hand. Among the 9 nether Yellow Spring formation, the water of the Yellow Spring River turned into a cage, enveloping the 4 of them. And above the barrier of the Yellow Spring River, there is an endless sense of death. The 4 looked at this scene with extremely ugly expressions. Even if they tried their best, they might not be able to block the blow of this formation. Why is there such a profound massacre formation in this barren universe? Could it be that the Earth he mentioned is really a high-latitude universe that we don't understand? One of the men clasped his fists at Lu Changsheng and said, Your Excellency, calm down, we have no other intentions, but just want to make friends. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng couldn't help but sneered and said, You liar. I've already used my skills and prepared to attack. If I didn't defend quickly, wouldn't it be you who succeeded? Quote. The four of them collapsed a bit. Those who can arrange such formations are afraid of their four projections. Still succeeding. How did this work? The woman also said respectfully at this moment, Senior, we didn't mean to offend, and please accept the formation. At that time, you can also gain our friendship, wouldn't it be better? Friendship. Doesn't this mean that the other party won't pester him anymore? Lu Changsheng was overjoyed, and just when he was about to agree, a voice came from outside the barrier of the thatched cottage. Master. We are back. Huh. Why is the barrier opened? Master, open the door quickly. Hearing these two voices, Lu Changsheng was overjoyed. Cook, oh no, the good disciples are back. It's just that, for this joy, he didn't control the aura in his body for a while, and clenched his 5 fingers into a fist. Immediately, the power of the 9 nether yellow spring formation is released. The wave barrier formed by the spring water of the Yellow River also turned into a huge wave at this moment, rolling towards the 4 people from all directions. Boom. You will pay for it. The day my sect descends in the future will be your doomsday. Looking at this scene, Lu Changsheng was stunned. Looking down at his clenched hand with 5 fingers, he wanted to cry but said without tears, I said I didn't do it on purpose, is there any need? At this time, Yi Chubai and Hongying also came hand in hand. Master, we are back. Hearing this, Lu Changsheng turned his resentful face and looked at the two of them. Yi Chubai was taken aback, and said awkwardly, Master, what's wrong? Lu Changsheng was even more furious when he thought of the revenge of the group of people afterwards, and said to Yi Chubai and Hongying, as a punishment, clean up the whole thatched cottage, and you are not allowed to use spiritual energy. This mountain peak belongs to the scope of thatched cottage. Sweeping a mountain without aura. How long is this? The point is that they don't know what mistake they made. But seeing Lu Changsheng's face full of resentment, the two chose to shut up, picked up the broom obediently, and prepared to go down the mountain, cleaning from the foot of the mountain. Etc. Yi Chubai and Hongying turned around in surprise. Lu Changsheng pointed to the kitchen and said, Go cook first, and then go after the meal is ready. Yi Chubai. Hongying. On the other hand. Northern Territory, Sunset Dynasty. In a magnificent palace. At the very front, there is a dragon chair. And behind the dragon chair, there is a red sun engraved. Above the red sun, there was a faint power that made the people under the dragon chair feel compelled to surrender. At this moment, a middle-aged man was sitting on the dragon chair. The man is wearing a golden dragon robe. On the dragon robe, there are 9 golden dragons embroidered with 5 color clouds. This person is the ruler of the Sunset Dynasty. At the same time, he is also ranked 4th in the 4 regions martial arts ranking. Unify the Emperor. Means to unify the 4 domains. You can see its ambition. And under the setting Sun King, Huang Tianming knelt there. Huang Yidong's face was quiet, and he couldn't see any emotions. But it is also because of this that it makes people feel pressured. Tell me, what mistakes did you make? Huang Tianming sweated a little on his forehead, lowered his head and said, My son, I made the mistake of underestimating the enemy. Huang Yidong picked up the wine glass, took a sip, and said, Tell me about it. Hearing this, Huang Tianming replied, I didn't fully understand Yi Chubai's relationship network, and I didn't expect that the other party would have such expert support. He also received the support of the Northern Territory Tibetan Taoist Academy, the Supreme Elder Yun Jing. Quote. Well, go ahead. The beads of sweat on Huang Tianming's forehead dripped onto the ground with a click. Needle drop can be heard. Didn't let the Shura cavalry and the general get rid of Yi Chubai directly at the first time, which led to the arrival of the other side's support. Huang Tianming panted heavily, bearing the sense of oppression, and continued, also, dispatching the Shura Iron Cavalry easily, but failed to complete the goal, and caused the Shura Iron Cavalry to lose nearly half. There is none left. Please give me your advice. Huang Yidong raised his eyebrows, looked at Huang Tianming, said in a thick voice, Huang Tianming, you still don't understand, I am so disappointed. Hearing this, Huang Tianming's face instantly paled. Huang Yidong stood up, looked at the red sun behind him, and continued, Why didn't Shadow Killer come out? Huang Tianming's face was pale. In order to let Yi Chubai die in your hands, you deliberately made Yingxia unable to make a move, right? Huang Tianming trembled all over. Huang Yi said, "You are the prince, the next heir appointed by the emperor, do you know what this means?" With a clear face, Huang Tian seemed to be stuck by a foreign object in his throat. He paused every word, and said with difficulty, "You shouldn't act emotionally, feel threatened, and kill yourself in the cradle immediately." Huang Yidong took over the words and said, "The royal family is ruthless. Killing decisively is the bottom line. If you feel threatened, even if the other party is your close relative, you must kill him. Do you understand?" Huang Tianming nodded with difficulty. "Although that woman is someone you like, but if she threatens you, you can throw it away. Have you ever done it?" Huang Tianming didn't speak. At this moment, his whole body was already wet with sweat. Huang Yidong suddenly turned around and shouted, "Then how did you do it?" "I know my mistake." Seeing this, Huang Yi waved his hand and said, "Go down, I will announce that you will be removed from the position of prince and will be succeeded by your second son. If you want to get it back, you must resolve this threat." Yes. Chapter 56. It turns out that this is the expert. In the past few days, Yunming has been observing Lu Changsheng. This is His Majesty's master. During this period of time, Yunming observed Lu Changsheng's every move in the dark countless times. Want to find out his details. However, after these days of observation, Yunming became more and more unable to understand Lu Changsheng. "I go to sleep every day without practicing, and it is extremely difficult to get up, and I don't get up until noon. After getting up, His Majesty or Yi Chubai will be asked to cook. After eating, I will lie on the bamboo recliner in a sunny place. Next to the recliner, there is a small wooden table with various spiritual fruits. After getting up, I went to water the so-called vegetable field, loosen the soil. And then dinner is ready, continue to eat dinner. After dinner, I went to the college for a stroll to eat something. Went back to sleep. Day after day, week after week. Yunming is stupid, this is completely different from his idea. As His Majesty's master. At least you need the kind of old man who is immortal, right? Moreover, go to a seclusion every now and then, and go through a catastrophe from time to time. Otherwise, some shocking martial arts skills will be developed. Only this kind of person is worthy of being His Majesty's master. But, what is this Lu Changsheng like? Never practiced, eat and sleep and eat, take a walk in between, and drink water. And then it's gone. Isn't this a salted fish? At first, Yunming couldn't feel Lu Changsheng's realm, thinking that his realm was too high and far beyond his own, so he couldn't perceive it. However, now Yunming suspects that this Lu Changsheng is probably an ordinary person. But, if this is the case, why does His Majesty worship him as a teacher? So, one day, Yunming found Lu Changsheng and asked, "What are you capable of?" Skill. Lu Changsheng was taken aback when he heard the words, tilted his head, frowned, and thought carefully. Maybe not. Yunming just wanted to say something. Qin Tianan came over, and behind him was a young woman. "Longsheng, I brought you a good seed." Lu Changsheng said helplessly. "Uncle Qin, as I said, I don't want to mislead my disciples, so don't force disciples on me." Qin Tianan pretended to be serious, and said, "Changsheng, excessive modesty is pride. Her talent is very good. If you teach her, I can have another Tianzhao in the Tibetan Academy of Taoism." Lu Changsheng covered his face and said, "I really don't understand these things. Besides, I already have 2 apprentices, and I have a headache for both of them. If I didn't know how to cook, I would have sent them away." Yi Chubai and Hongying came out at this moment, and when they heard these words, they couldn't help being speechless for a while. Seeing Yi Chubai and Hongying coming out, Qin Tianan could only sigh and said, "Oh, Uncle Qin knows you like to take a break, that's all right, then I'll go first." After speaking, Qin Tianan took the woman and left here. Yunming looked at this scene and couldn't help being taken aback. Obviously not capable, why did the dean come over in person to force others to be his disciples? At this moment, Yi Chubai and Hongying stepped forward. "What's wrong with you two?" Yi Chubai asked. "Master, there are some things I don't understand in the Sword Sutra of Absolute Beginning." Hearing this, Lu Changsheng said, "Then you can ask." After Yi Chubai asked the question, Lu Changsheng said with disgust on his face, "Why are you so stupid, think about it from another angle." Then, Lu Changsheng mentioned Yi Chubai. After all, it was passed on from him, so Lu Changsheng naturally understood the Sword Sutra of Absolute Beginning. After a while, Yi Chubai's aura burst out suddenly. Straight into the sky. Sword intent soars. The realm also broke through to Qihai realm at this moment. Originally, Yi Chubai's realm was able to break through the Sea of Qi long ago, but he wanted to make the foundation more stable, so he kept suppressing it. Now, with the comprehension of the exercises, Yi Chubai can no longer suppress it, and the realm seems to be a matter of course, directly breaking through to the Qi Sea realm. Yi Chubai opened his eyes, and said to Lu Changsheng, "Thank you, Master." The tone is full of reverence. This surprised Yunming. Just a few pointers, let the exercises have some insights, and also directly break through the realm. This is really tricky. However, the opponent just broke through from Zifu to Qihai, which is not difficult. If you want to teach His Majesty, it may not be enough. Yi Chubai went back to his room to continue comprehending the Sword Sutra of Taichu. At this time, Hongying also stepped forward and started asking questions. Lu Changsheng also answered one by one. "No, you still ask me such a simple question. Use your own brain and think differently. That's how it is here. Ah yes, that's it." After Hongying finished listening, she suddenly looked solemn, and immediately sat down cross-legged. The realm of heaven and man. Hongying actually directly entered the realm of heaven and man. In the realm of heaven and man, the understanding of martial arts and martial arts will increase exponentially. This state is difficult to enter. Especially with the advancement of the realm and the higher the understanding of martial arts, the more difficult it will be to enter the realm of heaven and man. As for Hongying, she entered 9 reincarnations. Every reincarnation, the understanding of martial arts will be deeper. That is to say, it is absolutely impossible for Hongying to enter the realm of heaven and man today. And now, after Lu Changsheng's guidance, he directly entered the realm of heaven and man. This surprised Yun Ming. Obviously, he doesn't seem to have much ability. So it's just that you usually don't want to show it. This kind of state of mind that does not show mountains or dews is the world's expert. If Lu Changsheng knew what Yun Ming was thinking at the moment, he might be speechless. You people in the Yunwang Empire all have a certain characteristic. Do you like self-guided strategies? At the same time, in the Northern Territory, a man dressed as a scholar bid farewell to another mountain village. Walking in the forest road, I couldn't help feeling, at the beginning, this is how I met Master. Thought of this. The man couldn't help but shook his head and laughed, and said, I don't know how the Master is doing. Let's go to the southern region, pass by the place where the Master is, and pay a visit. After finishing speaking, the man walked slowly towards the south region with his book basket on his back. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 57 Yi Qing is missing. This day, Lu Changsheng was drinking wine and eating the side dishes made by Yi Chubai. Beside him, Qin Tianan was also sitting here. I said, Uncle Qin, why are you here again? Qin Tianan looked at the helpless Lu Changsheng, and scolded angrily, You boy, what are you talking about? I finally finished handling the affairs of the academy, why don't I come to you for a drink? Don't worry, I'm not here to make you an apprentice. Lu Changsheng muttered a few times, and looked at Hongying who was still in the realm of heaven and man on the cliff. It's not over yet. I suddenly want to drink fish soup. The soup made by Hongying is better than that made by Chubai. How about, wake her up? Yunming on one side almost fainted, and hurriedly said, Senior, don't, this is the realm of heaven and man, the gain is not worth the loss, and there may be backlash. Over the past few days, although Yunming has no doubts about Lu Changsheng's ability. But, why does it feel like Lu Changsheng doesn't understand a lot of common sense in cultivation? Qin Tianan on the side couldn't help but rolled his eyes. He is no stranger to seeing Lu Changsheng's heartless appearance. At this time, Yi Chubai came back. As the top power in the southern region, Tibetan Taoist Academy naturally has some special training places. For example, the Sword Hall has a place for kendo training. There is a place where the sword energy is quenched. Yi Chubai has been practicing there these days. Now, the sword energy in the body is also more pure. Chubai is back. Qin Tianan looked over. Lu Changsheng already knew that something must be wrong once this cub came. Yi Chubai came over, first bowed to Lu Changsheng, then looked at Qin Tianan, and asked, What's the matter, Dean? Qin Tianan smiled and said, actually, it's not a big deal. It's just that you won the exchange first place for our Tibetan Taoist Academy before. Yi Chubai nodded. Qin Tianan continued. After each exchange, the Tibetan Taoist Academy in the 4 regions can let one person go to the main academy to practice for a period of time, and that person is usually the person who has contributed the most in the exchange competition. Naturally, the resources of the General Academy are much better than ours. Going there to practice for a period of time should be beneficial to your swordsmanship. The General Institute of the Tibetan Taoist Academy is located in the most prosperous place in this continent, Zhongyu. Strictly speaking, the middle domain cannot be counted as a domain. It is just the place where the 4 domains meet. In that place, there are many sects and countless families. Budo is extremely prosperous. Therefore, it is called Zhongyu. This is why, people usually say that there are only 4 regions in the mainland. When Yi Chubai heard the words, his heart moved. What he needs now is not resources, but more actual combat. Use actual combat to confirm the sentiment in your heart. Then he looked at Lu Changsheng, obviously asking for his opinion. Lu Changsheng lay on the bamboo chair and said casually, go if you want. Yi Chubai just nodded. Seeing this, Qin Tianan got up with a smile, and said, come find me in the next 3 days, you can deal with the family affairs first. After finishing speaking, Qin Tianan left, and before leaving, he also took a few bottles of wine from Lu Changsheng. Lu Changsheng. When Yi Chubai heard Qin Tianan's words, he couldn't help frowning slightly. Housework. Could it be that? What happened to the Yi family? Thinking of this, Yi Chubai said goodbye to Lu Changsheng, and rushed towards Tianyuan City. Seems to be under Hongying's instruction, after Yi Chubai left, Yunming also disappeared into the dark. At this moment, Tianyuan City is extremely depressing. On the ordinary street, there are countless vendors and shops, so lively. Today, the fallen leaves are flying. Yi Chubai passed by the street. Watching this scene, his heart sank. The ominous feeling in my heart grew more and more. The forward speed is getting faster and faster. Before arriving at Yi's house, he had already seen countless palace guards guarding the door. Yi Chubai's complexion sank, he performed his exercises, and sneaked in unknowingly. At the moment, in the meeting hall, the ancestor of the Yi family sat at the top. Among them, the great elder said, old ancestor, where did Yi Qing go? Among them, the third elder also echoed, now, the Tianyuan dynasty is forcing our Yi family to hand over Yi Qing. If we don't hand over Yi Qing, the emperor's imperial army will crush our Yi family. At that time, our Yi family will really cease to exist. The patriarch of the Yi family had a sullen face and didn't answer. He didn't know what he was thinking. Suddenly, looking behind him, he said, who is it? After finishing speaking, he wanted to slap out, but saw Yi Chubai's figure appeared, and asked, where is my father? Seeing this, the patriarch of the Yi family withdrew his palm, frowned and said, Yi Chubai. You are quite courageous, so you are not afraid that I will kill you. Yi Chubai said lightly, you can't kill me. Hearing the words, the ancestor of the Yi family couldn't help but stagnate. Indeed, before, Yi Chubai was able to escape by relying on a sword of unknown grade with a terrifying aura. Now, Yi Chubai's realm is higher, and it is not difficult to escape from his grasp. The ancestor of the Yi family let out a long breath, and said to everyone, go out first. The elders looked at each other. Yi Chubai noticed that before the great elder left, there was hatred in his eyes. But Yi Chubai didn't care. Looking at the ancestor, he asked, where did my father go? The ancestor of the Yi family took a sip of tea and said, he is now in the deserted city. Desolate city. Patriarch nodded and said, I sent him out. Yi Chubai was slightly surprised. According to the old ancestor's thinking, even if he would not kill his father, he would not protect him like this. The patriarch of the Yi family seemed to have seen Yi Chubai's thoughts, glanced at him, and said, you don't need to be grateful to me, it's just your talent that made me change my mind. Before I wanted to kill Yi Chubai, it was because I wanted to avoid future troubles. It's just that Yi Chubai was not completely left behind, which caused the ancestor of the Yi family not to dare to do anything, but to remove Yi Qing as the head of the family. In these days, I heard about Yi Chubai's deeds outside. In the Northern Territory, cross the border and defeat Jian Chaomian. Achieve great sword intent, become a great swordsman. The reason why Yi Chubai rose suddenly is definitely because of the mysterious master behind him. All these things made the ancestor of the Yi family reconsider his thoughts. No longer offend Yi Chubai. Otherwise, if Yi Chubai grows up, the Yi family may not be able to bear his anger. Yi Chubai naturally understood these principles, and asked again, then why did the Tianyuan dynasty want to arrest my father? The ancestor of the Yi family just wanted to answer. There are powerful auras coming from outside. Yi Chubai, I wanted to use your father to threaten you, but I didn't expect you to come out on my own initiative. It saves trouble. Yi Chubai came out, looked at the figures above, and understood. Beside the strong man of Tianyuan dynasty, there are several old acquaintances standing. And among them was the enshrining of the Sunset dynasty that appeared when he was in the Northern Territory. Chapter 58 Fight against the strong in the four domains. Obviously, the mastermind behind this is the Sunset dynasty. What Yi Chubai didn't expect was that the Sunset dynasty extended its hand to the southern region. Among those enshrined, there is Fan Jingyao, who ranks 27th on the four regions martial arts list. Among them, the sixth prince of the Tianyuan dynasty smiled and said, Yi Chubai, although you have no enmity with me, you should resolve the conflict between you and the Sunset dynasty with them, shall we? The strength of the Sunset dynasty obviously does not want to offend even the Tianyuan dynasty. Even begging for mercy. Yi Chubai looked at this scene coldly. Obviously, someone tipped the news. Who is it? No need to think about it at all. It must be the great elder. Of the people present, only he has enough motivation. But this is not important anymore, between them, there is a deadly enmity. Either you die, or I die. Yi Chubai looked at this scene coldly, the dark demon had already been taken out of the ring. The sword intent began to rise. Faced with this kind of lineup, Yi Chubai dare not have the slightest reservation. Feeling this sword intent, Fan Jingrao said with emotion, it's no wonder His Highness the First Prince is so afraid. This kind of talent is truly terrifying. At such a young age, sword intent has already reached the level of a great sword master. The state has also reached the air-sea state. This kind of talent, it can be said that as long as it does not fall, it will stand on the top of this continent in the future. I'm afraid only those monstrosities in Central Territory can compete with it. Yi Chubai said lightly, you are afraid of the Sunset dynasty, so aren't you afraid of my revenge? If you have revenge, you will take revenge, and if you have kindness, you will pay back tenfold. This is Yi Chubai's code of conduct. If the Yuan dynasty has such an attitude today, Yi Chubai will also set foot in the palace of the Tianyuan dynasty in the future. The sixth prince shook his head with a smile, and said, although your words are very intimidating, and you are indeed qualified to say such words, but... Speaking of this, a cold light flashed across the eyes of the sixth prince, his expression suddenly turned cold, his voice was low, but his voice was loud, and he said, a genius who died halfway, what else is there to be afraid of? Yi Chubai nodded and said nothing more. Talking too much doesn't help. Now that things have come to this point, it is natural to fight to the death. That monstrous devilish energy turned into a sword intent of the devil way, and swept towards the sixth prince. Sharp as a sword. Nothing stops. The sixth prince's cultivation was not very good, and his face changed slightly when he saw this. At this time, another priest of the Sunset dynasty also stood up, waved his hand, and resisted the sword intent. Today, you have no way to escape. If you want to procrastinate, it's impossible. The news here has been blocked, and the Tibetan Taoist Academy can't get the news. This person Yi Chubai has an impression. It is Tian Pin who ranks 29th in the four domains martial arts ranking. The weapon is a huge double-edged axe. At this time, Tian Pin disappeared in place, and came directly to Yi Chubai's side. The probing hand stretched out, trying to catch Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai retreated. However, the opponent is a strong man in the Qianyuan realm, which makes Yi Chubai feel helpless. When Tian Pin's hand fell on Yi Chubai's shoulder, a silver light flashed by. Tian Pin's eyes were startled, and he hurriedly backed away, but it was still too late, and ****** were cut off directly. Who? At this moment, the patriarch of the Yi family stood in front of Yi Chubai. Yi Chubai also looked surprised. He did not expect that the ancestor would stand up to help him at this moment. It's just that the ancestor's strength has clearly not yet reached the Qianyuan realm, but only the peak of the water overflowing realm, but can it hurt the strong Qianyuan realm? How is this done? Ancestor's complexion is a little pale at the moment. Tian Pin looked at this scene with an ugly face and asked, a secret method was used. The ancestor said lightly, it's just borrowing the power of the ancestors. As the four major families, the Yi family naturally has their cards in their cards. Now, the ancestor of the Yi family can reach the Qianyuan realm in a short time by borrowing the power of his ancestors. The great elder looked at this scene, and a trace of resentment flashed in his eyes. Since Yi Chubai escaped, he has shown amazing talent. The patriarch had already leaned towards Yi Chubai. The ancestors of the Yi family also naturally understood the truth that it is better to give charcoal in the snow than to add to the cake. Since he has chosen to side with Yi Chubai, he will gamble on him. If it succeeds, the Yi family may reach a height that their ancestors did not reach. Of course, if you fail, you have to bear the corresponding risks. Genocide. The sixth prince looked at this scene, and asked in a deep voice, Senior, aren't you afraid that the Yi family will be wiped out? Old ancestor snorted coldly and said, since it has already been done, there is no need to say more. Fan Jinggrao also nodded, and said, in this case, the Yi family will be removed from the southern region. After finishing speaking, Fan Jinggrao rushed towards the ancestor of the Yi family. Patriarch's eyes froze. Although he temporarily gained the strength of Qianyuan realm. But in fact, compared with the powerhouses on the four regions martial arts list, there is still a gap. Before being able to cut off Tian Pin's finger was also because of surprise. Now, Fan Jinggrao's attack has made the ancestor overwhelmed. Yi Chubai looked at this scene, and his face sank. And there is an enchantment shield here, and the message jade tube given by the Tibetan Taoist Academy cannot spread the news of this place. At this time, the sixth prince also waved his hand, and the imperial guards were also fully mobilized. Although the strength is not as terrifying as the Shira iron cavalry, it is still not to be underestimated. Tian Pin also said at this time, Yi Chubai, give up resistance, you have no chance of winning. Yi Chubai didn't speak, the sword he held in his hand already represented his attitude with the slowly rising fighting spirit. Tian Pin was taken aback when he saw this, and then felt a little pity in his heart. Even facing him, a man of the four regions martial arts list, in such a desperate situation, he still has the will to fight, without the slightest timidity. With this courage and talent, as long as he doesn't fall, the whole continent will know his name. Unfortunately not one of us. Thinking of this, Tian Pin made a move. Holding a double-edged axe, he stomped in midair. There were bursts of sonic booms in the air, and Tian Pin's figure rushed towards Yi Chubai. Immediately, the huge axe in his hand slashed towards Yi Chubai. Where the axe blade slashed, the space seemed to be shattered. Before the double-edged axe landed on Yi Chubai, he already felt an unstoppable force. This is the absolute suppression of the realm. The gap between Qianyuan realm and Qixi realm is not the same as Zifu realm and Qixi realm. The horizontal grooves are extremely large. Non-manpower can cross. What's more, Tian Pin is not an ordinary Qianyuan realm. He is a strong man on the four regions martial arts list. Yi Chubai felt no fear at the moment. He wanted to see how far he was from the experts in the four regions martial arts ranking. The dark demon in his hand slashed out. The demonic energy is raging, and the sword intent is crisscrossing. Heavenly Demon 9 Swords, 6th Sword. Chapter 59 Improving the Ancient Killing Formation. At this moment, thatched cottage. Lu Changsheng stood under the great formation of 9 serenities and yellow springs. I don't know when they will call again. Lu Changsheng looked worried. Before it was a projection, but next time, their power to fight will be even stronger. At that time, can the 9 netherworld formation still block it? What should I do if I can't stop it? No. Lu Changsheng began to think about the Jiuyou Wenqu formation. See if it can be improved and strengthened. Little Bird looked at this scene, a little puzzled, not knowing what Lu Changsheng was doing. Only Lu Shu knew Lu Changsheng's purpose. Improve the 9 netherworld formation. This is an ancient killing formation. The level is extremely high, and it may be difficult to improve on its basis. Lu Changsheng sat in midair, touching his chin. System, is there any improvement plan? Open black lens bracket. The host needs to think for himself. Close black lens bracket. Lu Changsheng shrugged, but he didn't expect much. After all, this thing is not a panacea. The 9 Nether Yellow Spring Formation is a large killing formation. Rely on the 9 Nether Chi, and use the Yellow River Spring water as the main body of the attack. Achieve the effect of killing the enemy. It can also be said that in fact, this formation uses the power of rules to kill. The regular power of the Jiuyou Wenqu formation is the power of the Jiuyou, which contains the attribute of yin. Then, what will happen to the power of rules that I supplement the yang attribute in it? Quote. The range of yin and yang attributes is very wide. Yin and yang mutually generate and restrain each other. All things are born together. Phase conquers all things and destroys them. Then, as long as the yang attribute is supplemented, let it collide with the yin attribute in it, and the power of rules will explode after the mutual restraint, so the power will be enhanced a lot according to theory. But it's a bit dangerous. Immediately, Lu Changsheng turned his head to look at the willow tree, and said, create an enchantment to protect this place. Hearing this, the willow branches of the willow tree fluttered gently, as if there was no wind. A barrier directly covers the entire mountain peak. At the same time protect everything in the thatched cottage. Hongying, who is still in the realm of heaven and man, was also protected by this barrier. When Lu Changsheng saw him, he no longer worried. Instead of the usual relaxed banter, he became extremely serious. The range of yin and yang attributes is actually very wide. Among them, the most common ones are the power of life and the power of death. Now, the yin attribute in the 9 Netherworld formation is the power of death. In other words, Lu Changsheng must release the power of life. Thinking of this, he pointed out. In the finger, a sword intent arises. The sword intent dissipates and then revives, which represents endless life. Among them, there is the power of life. This is not the system. The willow tree is extremely vigorous. There is an endless force of life circulating around her body. And Lu Changsheng lived with him for so many years, and before he knew it, he realized the power of life. At this time, the sword intent with vitality melted into the Jiuyou Wenqu formation. Lu Changsheng looked expectant, to see what the effect would be. Lu Changsheng's eyes widened, staring closely at the front. 5 defensive formations have been deployed around the body. Feeling that it was not enough, he waved his hand again, hundreds of formation flags flew out, and another 8 defensive formations appeared in front of Lu Changsheng. After all, the power of life and death blends together. Once an accident occurs, the power of backlash cannot be stopped by ordinary people. The time for a stick of incense passed quickly. Lu Changsheng shrank behind the defensive formation, poked his head out, looked at the still 9 Nether Yellow Spring formation, touched his head, and asked in doubt, why is there no movement here? Could it be that the power of life has been integrated too little? Thinking of this, Lu Changsheng carefully released a sword intent of life and merged into the 9 Nether Yellow Spring formation. But it was like a mud cow entering the sea again, without the slightest movement. Huh. What's the problem? Lu Changsheng leaned closer to ponder, during which time, he added a few more life force into it. But there is still no movement. Could it be that the formation must be activated? Thinking of this, Lu Changsheng touched the aura in it. Suddenly, the 9 Netherworld formation appeared in the sky. The power of dead silence pervades crazily. However, after only a few blinks, the power of death suddenly erupted, boiling. Lu Changsheng was shocked when he saw this, and hurriedly retreated behind the defensive formation. Surrounding those deadly forces, there is actually a Daosheng sword intent. This is the meaning of life that Lu Changsheng integrated into before. At this time, the forces of life and death are not blending with each other, but are constantly colliding. The aftermath of energy from the collision is extremely terrifying. Even the little bird was taken aback. The willow tree also waved its branches, adding another barrier around it. Obviously, she also thinks that the energy erupting in it is too terrifying. At this moment, the spring water of the yellow river roared in it. Waves roll. In just a moment, the power of life and death completely exploded in the collision. Boom. Suddenly, the destructive power in the sky was like countless sharp swords, cutting space. Form a storm of destruction. The entire space in the sky was actually shattered. It's like destroying the world. The defensive formation in front of Lu Changsheng was shattered at this moment. As a last resort, Lu Changsheng let out a low shout, and his aura gushed out, resisting all the destructive power. The enchantment under the willow tree is also constantly trembling. And the willow tree itself did not cover the barrier, even though the destructive power swept her body, it did not blow off a willow leaf. After a while, the destructive storm began to gradually dissipate. It's just that the shattered space still hasn't recovered. The power of destruction remains in it. The barrier around Xiāo now dissipated, and the flame protection also disappeared. Looking at the scene in front of him, his eyes were terrified. If it wasn't for the enchantment of the willow tree, I'm afraid she would have lost her soul. Hongying is still in the realm of heaven and man, and has not awakened. Looking at the scene in front of him, Lu Changsheng was a little surprised. This power seems to be a bit big. Compared with the previous power, it is much greater. Just how to control. If such a powerful destructive power cannot be controlled, it will form a double-edged sword. Can kill the enemy, but also hurt oneself. Of course, Lu Changsheng can't be hurt, but other people don't know. The power must be strengthened. Now, Lu Changsheng has to think about how to control this destructive power. Once formed, the opponent will attack, and Lu Changsheng will feel that he has the power to fight. On the other side, Tianyuan City in the southern region. Yi Chubai held a dark demon in his hand, and slashed towards the double-edged axe in front of him. The sword is reckless, and the sword energy is vertical and horizontal. At this moment, the dark demonic energy was extremely turbulent, roaring crazily. The sixth sword of the heavenly demon Nine Swords, now that Yi Chubai has reached the Qi-Si realm, he can finally use it. Amidst that devilish sword intent, some of the imperial guards knelt down and bowed down. Deterrence of the mind. People have to surrender. The sixth prince's face also changed, and his face was extremely pale. If there were no guards standing in front of him, he would have knelt down and bowed down. This made him extremely shocked and angry. He is the prince. Above 10,000 people. How can you bow down to other people? Chapter 60 Qingyun appears, slaying the strong in the martial arts list. 9 Swords of Heavenly Demon. After Lu Changsheng's improvement and filling in the vacancy. More powerful than before. The magic energy contained in it, the ability to deter the mind is also more terrifying than the original version. This also led to the reason why the imperial palace guards began to kneel and worship now. Only a few people with high realm and firm mind can still resist. Tian Pin felt this scene with surprise in his eyes. This sword technique can be said to be the most overbearing sword technique he has ever seen. But, with the absolute suppression of the realm, the impact on Tian Pin is not that great. The double-edged axe in his hand collided with Yi Chubai's dark demon. Just moments. Yi Chubai flew out with his sword upside down. It fell into the house. The house also collapsed at this moment. This is also expected by everyone, after all, the gap in realm is too great. Tian Pin frowned slightly, looking at his arm. On the arm, there is actually a sword intent wrapped around it, like a tarsal maggot. Just the early stage of Qi-Si realm, can it cause some damage? At this time, Yi Chubai crawled out from the ruins. At this moment, his arms were already covered with blood, and his face was pale. Obviously, the blow just now was not so easy to catch. Tian Pin saw this and said, "You are proud of being able to block my blow without dying." Yi Chubai wiped away the blood from his mouth, looked at Tian Pin with fighting intent in his eyes, and shouted in a low voice, "Come again." After finishing speaking, the sword is full of intent. At this moment, that sword intent is actually sharper than before. Immediately, he raised the dark demon sword and continued to rush towards Tian Pin. Tian Pin snorted coldly, raised the double-edged axe above his head, and slashed out from top to bottom. Yi Chubai's expression froze for a moment, and then he didn't choose to make a hard connection. At this moment, he broke free from Tian Pin's breath lock. One side of the body, dodging the blow. Tian Pin was surprised. At this moment, Yi Chubai's dark demon is also stabbing towards Tian Pin's chest. The double-edged axe in Tian Pin's hand could not be retracted. I had to pat it with the other hand. The dark magic sword fell into Tian Pin's palm. Breaths surge. Yi Chubai flew out again. Under everyone's amazed eyes, Tian Pin's palm was pierced. Yi Chubai's sword actually broke through Tian Pin's aura defense. Blood gushed from the palm of his hand. Tian Pin's expression turned cold. He is a strong man who ranks 29th in the four regions martial arts list. Was actually injured by a person in the early stages of the petty sea realm. If this spreads, I'm afraid people will laugh out loud. Immediately, holding the double-edged axe, he chased in the direction where Yi Chubai flew out. At this moment, Yi Chubai has consumed most of the aura in his body. Used the heavenly demon 9 swords twice in a row, the 6th sword. It consumes a lot of his aura. The 5 viscera and 6 internal organs in the body also seem to be displaced by Tian Pin. It can be said that Yi Chubai is already at the end of his strength. The Great Elder looked at this scene and sneered, after this blow, Yi Chubai deserves to die too. The third elder next to him is from the side of the Great Elder, and he nodded in agreement when he heard the words, "At last, I can feel at ease." The patriarch of the Yi family who fought with Fan Jinggrao smiled wryly upon seeing this. Is it a wrong bet after all? Yi family will be destroyed in his hands. In midair, the 6th prince showed joy in his eyes. Yi Chubai's talent is too high, if not eliminated. There will be endless troubles in the future. Fan Jinggrao shook his head and said, "It's a pity, if you don't die, another generation of sword masters will appear in the 4 domains." Yi Chubai looked at Tian Pin who was on the attack, feeling the crazy flow of aura in his body, and he didn't show the slightest timidity. Instead, he laughed loudly and shouted, "4 regions martial arts rankings. No more." As soon as the voice fell, Yi Chubai stabilized his figure and walked towards Tian Pin to meet him. It's just that Yi Chubai put away the dark demon this time. Tian Pin snorted coldly when he heard the words, "Arrogance." At this moment, with the double-edged axe in his hand, his breath gushes out crazily. Axe lights covered the double-edged axe at this moment. Then cut out. At this moment, a long sword appeared in Yi Chubai's hand. It's just that this long sword is put in the scabbard. The sheathed long sword came out. Tian Pin's expression changed drastically. He actually felt a crisis in this sword. Unprecedented crisis. This crisis can even threaten his life. How can this be? He is a strong man in the Qianyuan realm, and he is on the list of martial arts in the 4 regions. How could he be threatened by a petty person from the sea? The arrogance in his heart does not allow him to retreat. The double-edged axe in his hand continued to slash out. Only this time, the axe glow is even stronger. At this moment, Yi Chubai grasped the hilt of Qingyun sword. Shouted in a low voice, "Qingyun sword appears under Qingyun." The Qingyun sword appears again. Yi Chubai pulled out part of Qingyun sword again. Sword intent gushes out crazily. Among them, it actually contains the principles of the sword. Fan Jinggrao looked at this force, his face changed in shock, and he immediately shouted, "Tian Pin, go back." This power is more mysterious than the sword intent. Even standing in the distance, it still makes him feel extremely palpitating. And at this moment, it was already too late. The sword intent that contained the principles of the sword had already landed on Tian Pin's axe blade. It was just the moment of confrontation. Tian Pin was horrified to see that the double-edged axe in his hand began to appear cracks. And the sword intent rushed into his arm along the crack. Ah! A scream came from Tian Pin's mouth. At this moment, streaks of blood erupted from the arm. The sword intent turned into a poisonous snake, running along Tian Pin's arm and rushing into his internal organs. In Tian Pin's body, crazily surged, and then destroyed. Under the terrified eyes of everyone. Tian Pin's aura passed away crazily, and within a few blinks, he lost all aura. Has fallen. A person who was listed on the 4 regions martial arts ranking was unexpectedly killed by a person at the early stage of Qi realm. Yes, it's a kill. Is this true? Yi Chubai, is he already strong enough to kill the strong in the 4 regions martial arts list? Fan Jinggrao looked at Yi Chubai with horror in his eyes. Even he couldn't kill Tian Pin. The difference in strength between them is not that big. And at their level, it is even more difficult to kill the opponent. The ancestor of the Yi family laughed out loud watching this scene. The faces of the first elder and the 6th elder were full of fear. The 6th prince looked at this scene, terrified. Yi Chubai's talent is simply terrifying. If it is not removed, the Tianyuan dynasty will be destroyed in the future. Forbidden Army. Hurry up. Kill Yi Chubai. The guards of the imperial palace were also in a state of sluggishness. They only reacted when they heard the scream of the sixth prince, and rushed towards Yi Chubai with their weapons in hand. At this moment, Yi Chubai is at the end of his strength. Aura has bottomed out. Forcibly pulled out the Qingyun sword, and now it has been covered by the force of backlash. It can be said that even an ordinary person can kill Yi Chubai now. Fan Jinggrao watched this scene, and was also ready to make a move. This son can't stay. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories, and never miss out on a great listen.